ambient noise, yeah.
So now you grabbing some BandLab clips.
Yeah.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice. 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
Fuck around and get Angified.
Slow mode, slow mode, slow mode.
And super high. Sativa sway. Almost overdosed or focused on them undertones. Watch out for the undertow. Take a puff and hold the smoke. Yeah. Count to 10 and let it go. Up, and where we go. I toggle through scenarios. They ended up in burial. Riding in my chariot, banging my life through a stereo. I'm not a narcissist, but a perfectionist. Wiping blemishes till my lab's up on this kitchenette. Still the darkest side of that silhouette. Hey. To tell the truth, I am wrong. Turn away from Mayday. We're going down. To tell the truth, I am the proof. Don't mind what they say. No. Been Clyde the hood bonnet, I've been there. You don't want it, I'm Bluebill the blue bonnet. Southside, we drop comments. No gin, no tonic. What's in my cup? He's supersonic. Stay ready for these comments.
Hey, Brother T. How are you?
Hey, what's going down, Angie? Let's go.
I'll tell you, I got like the biggest surprise today.
Oh, yeah? What was that?
Oh, you sent me an invite.
Nah, me? You know
sent
what?
me an
Let me
invite.
think about it. I think I did. I sure did.
And it's funny because we talked about a collaboration for a while. And
Yes, we did.
I have this slow mode. And here you go. Copycats, huh? This is going to be interesting.
Well, now, like, here's the thing, right? So when I typed in your name, there was so many different Angifies, and I was like, none of them Angie, though. I was like, they're just copycats. They're wannabes. What was that?
When you say a lot of Angifieds, which ones did you find? Which were the funny ones you found?
Oh, the Angified shakes that ass or something like that. I said, stop, man.
Yeah.
I was like,
and don't forget the Angified lovers.
Yeah. They wish they could shake it like us, man.
Right?
No.
Right?
Oh yeah, man. By the way, just to let you know, this is a psychedelic piece. I did write it under the influence of the sour diesel sativa. And it was a hemp flower strain, but I want you to know, in some edibles, it hit just right. And that also inspired the cover art, because I actually painted that myself with my son doing the background layering of it. So he went through and put whatever colors he wanted, and then I let it dry and created the landscape from there. So it's definitely a lot of artistic vibes going on. And then of course, when they went to bed, that's when I did my little psychedelic piece. So I wanted you to be a part of this because I know you can bring those awesome trippy vibes that are really gonna make this piece pop.
Oh, I'm blessed right now, see.
Oh yeah. Oh, and by the way, produced by me using BandLab Song Starter. So with this segment of Talkin Shhh I.T, you know, Tony is going to be able to go into more detail about some of the MIDIs and different things that I use with the AI Song Starter as well. That's free for any artist to use. Super awesome.
It is freaking awesome.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, Brother T, I think that we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna hit play on this. Check this out. And man, let's see some slow mode. Let's see this collaboration.
Let's do it.
I'm so excited.
Almost overdosed or focused on them undertones. Watch out for the undertow. Take a puff and hold the smoke. Yeah. Count to 10 and let it go. Up, 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 and away we go. I toggle through scenarios. They ended up in burials. Riding in my chariot, banging my life through a stereo. I'm not a narcissist, but a perfectionist. Wiping blemishes till my lab's up out his kitchenette. Still the darkest side of that silhouette. Hey, to tell the truth, I'm one wrong turn away from Mayday. Yeah. To tell the truth, I am the truth. Don't mind what they say. Hey, been Clyde the hub bonnet. I've been there. You don't want it. I'm Bluebill the blue bonnet. Southside, we drop comets. No gin, no tonic. What's in my cup be supersonic. Stay ready for these comments. I'm caught in a whip. Where's Charlotte? Hope what's on my back ain't targets. I'm gonna finish what you started. Not a bad one, less I'm on one. Don't come around here thinking dog and make me sick my paws on them. Sativa got my thoughts drawing. Told my boys I'm all in. Then my engine began stalling.
Okay. So right here, this is where you're gonna be in doing your thing.
So
my engine began stalling.
All right, pause it.
Lemons making lemonade. Also told the selling haters eat. And you eyeing it up. Suppliers can't keep up.
Even I got some. Yum. What have I become? Whatever should I hatred you betraying as this love? Tree trunk to a tree stump. Think they're both the same. What are we on? Speed bump and a hiccup. Both slow you down. So what do you want?
And then right here, you're like, to tell the truth. Yeah, like this part you're gonna go in and then say what I said in the first verse.
Which is what? What is it on the first part? The lemons right here?
Just keep on calling these audibles. All of my efforts
go up a little bit more.
That's why I'ma need me a lot of smoke, a lot of prayer, and a lot of hope.
To tell the truth, I'm one wrong turn away from Mayday.
Tell you what you want. You believe that there, Mr. Nonchalant. Well, I've been Clyde the hub bonnet. I've been there. You don't want it. I'm Bluebill the blue bonnet.
That's a nasty chord.
We drop comets. No gin, no tonic. What's in my cup be supersonic. Stay ready for these comments. I'm caught in a whip. Where's Charlotte? Focus on my back ain't targets. I'm gonna finish what you started. Not a bad one, less I'm on one. Don't come around here thinking dog and make me sick my paws on them. Sativa got my thoughts drawing. Told my boys I'm all in. Then my engine began stalling.
Okay. So so you know, it did that with the song starter. Like I said, you know, I went through and played with the midis on the drums a little bit. I actually slowed down the tempo. The original beat was a lot faster, and I was like, you know what, I really want this to be a kind of psychedelic vibe. Like I had an artist by the name of Just Call Me Q. Shout out, girl. Shout out. You know, she's a big supporter of mine and has been for years, and she's also a great artist. Check her out sometime. But she
Will
was
do.
saying, I really want a one-way ticket into your mind. She heard Psyche, and that was the comment she left. She was
Oh
like, "Look,
yeah.
I want to know what's going on in your mind." And I'm like, during the day, yes, I got my cape on. I'm super dad, but it's like, nah, you let me get in my edibles, and now you about to find out what's really happening. And so that's what the slow mode kind of is I'm like, it's just a bunch of random thoughts that are just coming off the top of the dome. So it's almost like freestyle writing, if you will, because there's not an actual topic. It's just me kind of just swagging out on a beat. And
And
I
just
want
feeling
you,
everything in the moment.
yes, and I want you to bring that same swag. And I know you will. I know you will. So I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
Aw. I feel blessed and I can't wait to go ahead and jump on this collab.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
if you go back to the lyrics real quick, I want to
Okay.
show you the piece on the second verse. Kind of how I want it to be ran. And again, y'all, I ain't no singer, so y'all bear with me. Okay.
To
Now
here
when I
order the
start
lemons and lemonade.
the lemon and lemonade.
Okay.
Now, when the first chorus ends, that's exactly how to be ran. Lemon, making lemonade. I was told there's a sale on haterade, and y'all buying it up. And then that's where my rap part comes in. Suppliers can't keep up. Even I got some. Yum, yum. What have I become? Like even I'm
Right.
drinking the haterade. What the hell's going on here? And on if you scroll down just a little bit more, just a
Okay.
hair, okay. Now where I say speed bump and a hiccup both slow you down. So what do you want? And
Uh-huh.
then that's where you be like, personally, I just want me some peace. These terpenes
Okay.
in the breeze, and my baby's at ease. And then I come in, y'all trying to make it impossible. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So it's
I do.
like,
I do. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like I just want these terpenes from this good flower to just be floating in the breeze. I don't want my kids to be worrying and stressing. Oh yeah, and by the way, the IRS just sent me this property tax form. Like
Oh
you're like,
no.
oh, and it's like y'all trying to make it impossible. I'm gonna just keep on calling these audibles. Like, yeah. Yeah, so you feel me though? It's like
I
as soon as
do. I
you just want
do.
the simple things in life, and sometimes we as human beings have actually set it up to make it harder on the others, and
Very true.
that's what I love about the art, and actually that's also what I love about hemp flower and marijuana. I don't care what nobody says, that shit is not a drug. It really helps you to come into grips with what's going on in your psyche, what's going on in your mental on the day-to-day basis, and really helps you to kind of piece it all together like a puzzle, if you will.
So I have a question.
I have an answer. What you got?
Okay. So, am I allowed to like throughout this, while I'm feeling your vibe and taking on this psychedelic, just pad you in certain spots?
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so like some words sound like an echo or like an answer back. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And
All
and
right,
that's the whole
cool.
thing. I kind of want you to just throw your swag all throughout it. That make some backing vocals, maybe a little harmonizing, and keep the levels to where you could still hear obviously the vocals and what's being stated.
Yes.
But yeah, you definitely can add as much as you want, because the funny thing is after you add that, then I am going to come back in and do a session with y'all where I literally do the ad libs. So for the first time ever, y'all get to hear the insanity in my closet that my wife has to hear all the time where she's like, "Is this guy losing his mind in there?" And then she hears it for a second and she's like, "Oh, he's just making ad libs." Got it. Yeah. Because I'm in there talking about yeah, yeah, woo, woo, do, 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 do. And she's just like, "What the hell?" Don't mind me, honey. I said excuse me. No.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Yes. So once you do, your piece and like I said, feel free. The only request that I have
Okay.
is you could have it in any tone that you want, but
Okay.
if you could ride the beat similar to how you heard me writing it, but do it with your own tone. You don't have to do it low. If you want to
Okay.
go high, go high. I have no problem with that.
I'm gonna do what
Um,
I feel.
yeah, that part. Yeah.
Because if I feel like it, I need to go up, but then I'll go up. You know what I mean? If I need to go down, I'll go down. If I need to like be slab like right at key with you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is what it's all about. When you're creating a piece and you're collabing with other artists, this is the main thing, like, hey, we both want this piece to come out like a symphony, if you will, you know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate you for accepting the invite, Angie. I'm honored and I'm thrilled.
Yay!
This is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be awesome.
Yes, it is. And you
Yes, ma'am.
guys get to go ahead and see Tony and me and TBone on Thursday as Tony goes ahead and mixes it up.
Already that
And we
Talkin
talk
Shhh
some
I.T.
because
I
us
T.
artists are our worst critics. So we'll see what Tony does in there and we'll see what it sounds like at the end of the show.
Oh, I know it's gonna be masterful, and y'all tune in. Y'all already know what it is. Tony's and Angie ain't doing nothing but spreading the love, and so that's what I'm doing too. Y'all already know. DM me any of your tracks. I'm always willing to take a listen. I
Awesome.
always take that time, and y'all need to know that. I am a real one. When I actually comment, there's a reason why it's not emojis because I
That's right.
make sure to think about what I'm gonna say about what I have heard. You're dealing with a real
Right.
one. TBone. Let's go.
Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you later.
Hello, Glenn.
What's happening? Nice little collaboration going on.
I got to practice that little thing that Ange got there. I like that. That's a catchphrase.
Yeah, that works. That works for sure.
Well, we got a special episode tonight. I mean, we're
Mhm,
coming from the Zoom because we're going to
mhm,
have some guests in a little bit. We're we're starting a new series on collabing, and from what I'm told, it's collab or ate it. So,
mhm.
the collab, we're going to show, whether it works or whether they ate it. And or in some cases, I'm also going to rate it. Like after I get done, I'm coming up with a little collab scorecard on, you know, workflow, ease of collaboration, the kind of things that we should be thinking about when we get into collabs with people.
Mhm. Yeah, and the kind of traits, like you said, that make a good collaborator or make a collaboration come out, solid because the fact that everybody's putting in good work, everything is coming together right, everyone knows their part in the collaboration and is, delivering for that final product. And the same, having the same vision for that final product also helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what that first video we just watched is all about.
Mhm,
It's the introductory, it's the invitation, the
mhm,
artists getting to know what they're each is looking for, what they're
mhm,
expecting from each other, ideas that they could try. Um, Later in the show, at the end, we're going to show their first bounce off of each other.
nice.
What's cool about how how TBone did this is he started with the BandLab song starter,
Yeah, yeah.
and we looked at that last year, and
Mhm,
it's really come into its own.
mhm,
He gave me like a nice first revision with the song starter,
mhm.
4 channels of MIDI. I got the bass on a MIDI track. I got the drums on a MIDI track. I got the horns, and he used a couple of loopers as well, some audio tracks,
Sure.
but all the music is nice and separated. And then the latest revision, when he sent me the invite, it's got all his main lines, it's got his ad lib tracks, and then Ange came in and just to tell the truth.
Nice. All over it.
Yeah,
Very cool.
it's a great collab to show for what we're going to be covering here. You've got two different types of artists, different styles and different approaches. So we get to see two artists bounce off of each other, make something, and then bring in a mixer to take it all and put it together. And on BandLab, that's a common situation. You're going to have the musicians, and hopefully you're thinking like a mixer to finalize it.
Right. Get everything to sit nice and play nice with everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like about this is, sometimes the artist who's doing the singing or playing the instruments doesn't always make for the best mixer.
Because they can't be
They
objective. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's a bias. Sometimes they're either pulling themselves back too much or
Right.
they're pushing themselves up too much, and it's good to have a third ear there.
Yeah, for sure. And the more ears, the better. And it also comes back to listening to that mix on different medium. Like listening to it in the car, listening to it on the monitors, listening to it through the headphones. Like each one is going to give a different representation of it. And somebody might do the best mix in the world on their headphones, and
Yeah.
then they say, "Oh, try listen to this," and you go listen to it somewhere like your car, and you're like, "What the hell is this?" Because it's
And
nothing
you're
like what they
you're gonna
thought.
you're gonna see in the later video, T-Bone gets into some of that, and
Yeah, yeah,
we do discuss that a little bit when he sends me the invite.
absolutely. It's important.
Yep. So before we get to that, to show where they're at, let's take a look. I've got a couple of videos. It's a little shorter tonight on the YouTube channels because we're gonna focus on Ange and T-Bone's collab,
Yeah, yeah.
but we do have a couple of videos that I thought were a good starting point to talk about collabs, and there's 3 of them. The first one is more focused on why you should collab, the benefits of collabing, why you should consider it. It's going to help you expand as a musician. And that one's going to be coming from at fresh, freshly sunlit. I'm going to go blind on this screen. And the second one is kind of suggestions on where you can find collabs or collab opportunities. And although this one doesn't mention BandLab, it's okay because we are going to be mentioning BandLab. That's kind of where we're spotlighting this collab on.
Right.
But he's going to give some interesting ideas on recognizing collab opportunities, from open mics to playing in the park.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this one's going to be coming from at Thomas George. And the third one is, you know, uh, this is where good approach, what you should expect from a collab, uh, collabicate, like etiquette for collabs, which
Nice.
is something that we're going to be really covering over the next couple of weeks. Ange mentioned it would be so cool if like we had collab contracts, and having something like that makes it a lot easier to know what you're going into, what's expected of everybody, and I love the idea. I think that's something that will improve collabs and workflow, taking that kind of approach. And this one's going to be coming from Gabe Miller Music, at Gabe Miller Music, and he's going to show some proper form to doing a good collab.
Nice.
And then after we're done with those, we're going to see the second part where T-Bone and Ange have bounced off of each other a little bit, and now they're going to see where to go with this collab. So this week we see the starting a collab.
Nice. The early stages.
Yeah, and I've got all those tracks nice and loaded now on my cakewalk. So next week we're going to get into mixing the collab.
Doing the work. Very cool.
So what we'll do is we'll start with the reasons to collab, collabing with other artists and producers. That's the one that's at Freshly Sunlit over on YouTube. And Ange is my DJ tonight with the videos.
Excellent.
Collaboration in music. If you look at a list of the top songs right now, many of them are collaborative, featuring more than one artist. And this trend is not exclusive to popular music. Even the most underground indie artists are collaborating with each other. And while collaborations have happened through the decades of music, they are much more common now. And this is because it's easier than ever to collaborate with someone. For a while, in order to record music, you had to go to a studio, rent out the space, and it was a very expensive process. So when you wanted to collaborate, you had to bring in someone else and rent that studio space. So it had to either be someone who lived in close proximity to you, or you had to fly them out. So it was just very expensive to collaborate. Now, many artists have the capability of recording in their home. And so all of a sudden the world has opened up and a collaboration can happen anywhere remotely. And it is very easy. One cool result of this is you get really interesting collaborations now. You can have an electronic producer in LA collaborate with a country singer in Nashville, and they might not have crossed paths because they're in different music scenes in different parts of the country. So it's a lot easier to collaborate now, but why do it? Honestly, it's even easier to not collaborate and just work on music by yourself. Having complete creative control is like the ultimate freedom. Like when I'm making music on my own, I don't have to worry about any of my ideas being shot down or people not liking how it sounds, because it's just me, I'm just making my stuff. Whereas when you're working with someone else, you have to be willing to let your ideas go and to not use some of the things that you come up with. As great as they might seem in your head, a certain lyric or a certain chord progression or something, you have to be willing to put those aside and try something else and be open to ideas that might be out of your comfort zone. They might be a little bit like not what you'd usually do, but it doesn't mean they're not good. And this is where the magic happens in collaboration. It's taking us a little bit past the creative ruts that we normally find ourselves in. And it's when we add someone else to our creative process, they see things a little bit differently. And then we combine that with the way that we're doing things, and you get this like new flavor, this new blend. And I think this is the magic of collaboration. And it's also the challenge of it, because you have the conflicting ideas, there's tension, there's friction working with other people. And it's learning to let our ego take the back seat and willing to be open to another person, letting them in, being vulnerable. And this is why collaboration is a beautiful thing. If you watch the credits of a movie, you notice that there are countless names, because it takes so many people to create a film. It is the ultimate form of creative collaboration. So in a similar way with music, we can accomplish much more together than we can on our own. Now, I do think it's important for every artist to create on their own as well as with others, because there's a pure expression when you create by yourself, and it's also a place of experimenting, of learning, of getting better at your craft. And really, I think the best collaborators are those who have spent a lot of time creating on their own, of honing their skills, of getting really good at what they do. And then when someone else joins them, it's just that much better. So here's why you should collaborate. You're gonna learn a lot about yourself. When you bring someone else in and they can objectively look at what you're doing in your creative process, you're gonna actually get some feedback and hear things that will help you just discover like, oh yeah, I'm actually just like really good at making beats, and that's actually what I love to do. Or I'm really actually good at finding melodies, or really good at just writing lyrics. Like when you have bring someone else into that, they can give you that feedback and help you learn about yourself. It helps you let go of your ego and not hold on to your ideas so tightly. Because sometimes I think we hold on to ideas and it prevents us from progressing and it prevents us from actually improving and getting better. And like right beyond this idea that we're holding on to, there is so much better stuff. It allows us to create stuff that we never would have thought of, like completely new things. And also some of the coolest works that maybe we have ever done is through working with other people. And finally, it's just fun to bring someone else into the process, to bounce ideas back and forth and to create together. There's something really enjoyable about creating together. It can be kind of difficult finding who exactly to collaborate with. Like you might get a comment like, hey, we should collab, or a DM here like, hey, it'd be super cool to collab. But you don't know if it's gonna work out. So how do you find that? There's so many different elements that come into play to create the synergy needed for a really good collaboration. And that sometimes takes time to find the right people for that. And I know not all the collaborations are gonna work out. Like someone might reach out, or I might reach out to someone and be like, hey, it'd be really cool to collaborate. And it just doesn't work, but we can at least give it a shot. We can at least try. We can at least start kind of bouncing ideas or start talking and seeing, okay, is this gonna work? And I think you learn pretty quickly if it's not gonna work. So if there's just not a connection with the other artist, I think that's a pretty clear indicator that the collaboration is not gonna work out. It's also important to align expectations with a collaboration, because I think sometimes people reach out and they're just looking for like a free beat. They're like, hey, let's collaborate, but really I just want you to make a beat for me. Even if it's not their intention to be that way, it can come across as them being kind of unequal, like they're asking for a lot of you and they're not really giving a lot in return. So finding a way for it to be like mutually beneficial, or just to have set the same expectations with each other. How can this be a win for both people? And one really cool part of collaborating is it promotes both artists. When you're featured on a track, that promotes you and it promotes the other artist. So if everyone is being attributed correctly and they're in the featured part on Spotify, and also if the royalty splits. There's this phrase in Nashville that's 1 word, 1/3. And that means if you contributed even just 1 word to a song and there's 3 people collaborating, that would give you 1/3 of the royalties. And I think this just makes sense with royalty splits of however many people you are collaborating with, it is an equal division of those people. So if it's 2 people, it's 50%. If it's 3 people, it's 33.33%, and so on. So it makes sense to collaborate with other artists who are at a similar skill level and sound quality level, and also maybe at a similar point in their careers with their amount of listeners and stuff like that, just so it is a mutually beneficial project. There are many tools to accomplish collaboration, so find whatever works best for you, whether that's a web-based DAW where you can both work on the same set at the same time, or that's just sending ideas back and forth in voice memos or on Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever it is. One method of collaborating that I've done with my buddy Eddie, who goes by Good Shivers, is we actually send the project file in Ableton back and forth. So we freeze all the tracks, so any effects or plugins that we have that the other person doesn't, those get saved onto the set. We upload that to Dropbox, and then the other person can make changes. And how we do this is it's kind of like playing tennis or ping pong, where I'll make some changes, put some beats in, do something, send it back to him, he'll listen to it and then add some changes, and then he'll put it back in my court. And so it's just a cool way of like going back and forth until we both kind of feel it's done. And this is just a fun way of collaborating. And Eddie lives in Tennessee and I live in the Northwest, so we never would have met, but I met him on TikTok, and now we've created 1 track already together. And it's just cool, like doing stuff like this. So I want to encourage you to be open to collaborating, even if you don't know how to do it exactly. Just start trying things and see what works. Send each other lyric ideas back and forth. Maybe you send 1 lyric line and then the other person has to do the next one, and you just go back and forth until you have a complete song. Or if you're really good at making beats, make a beat and see if you can find someone else to rap on it or sing on it. If you're really good at rapping, like find someone to make a beat for you. Like if you're really good at writing lyrics but you don't know how to like create chords and stuff, find someone who can create those for you, and see if you can work together and see if you can really make it a win-win for both people and benefit each other. And also just learn in the process, be open to that journey of learning and discovering more about yourself and discovering how to work with other people and let people in and just create together. There's so much magic in collaboration. I think that's why we're seeing so much of it right now. And it's worthwhile, if you're an artist, to reach out to someone or be open when you get those DMs to maybe just try it out, see if it works. Because you never know when you might get that collab that turns into something really amazing. If you'd like to collaborate with me, I actually created a form that kind of helps me determine our musical compatibility. So I'll have a link to that. Also, it could give you inspiration if you want to create something similar. It's just an easy way to direct people to that if they're interested in collaborating. You can fill this out and then kind of have a better idea of like, okay, yeah, actually I think this might work out. Let's explore this. So it's kind of a good first step in determining a collaboration. So let's keep making music together and on our own. And remember to create every day.
Oh, a good one to start with when it comes to the benefits of collabing.
And as we talked about in a couple different times, sometimes it's surrendering the mix at the end, or so like both people agreeing when it's done. That's not always as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
It's like you guys could go back and forth, and you might say, okay, we're good, and then they might say, oh, how about this, and then how about this, and they might still have more ideas, or it might be the other way, where you're the one with tons of ideas and they think it's done. So at the same time that you need to be willing to let some of your ideas go because the other person might not want them, or what have you. You also should just be willing to let the whole thing come about as it's going to.
Yeah, to his point, like, it is easier to just make it all yourself and make your music alone, but at the same time, it's not as beneficial to what you can produce because once you do start bouncing off of other people, a song grows from the different musicians.
And as you mentioned, just in his example, being from the Northwest and somebody else being from Nashville, I mean, that is a very different style, in those two places, if you're just looking at the overall scene. So, the music that comes out of it probably has a mesh of those two styles that would not have otherwise come together, in that particular song, because if they had done it all in the Northwest, it would have been this way. And if they did it all down in Nashville, it would have been this way, but it would not have been that middle ground that it probably would end up as. Depending on which side it's more influenced by. But
you can actually get more diversified music by collabing with people all over the world.
Exactly. Especially when the styles are, very different, but could still work together.
Yeah. And, he did mention, like, if you're using the same DAWs, there's benefits if everybody's on the same channel. Matter of fact, there was one screen, I'm going to bring it up. And this was at Freshly Sunlit over on YouTube. But this particular screen, when I'm thinking collab contract, there's a lot of what I'd want to see in a collab contract right here. The collaborators that you're going with, you should be looking for flexibility and adaptability. You don't want to be dealing with somebody new who's rigid and not willing to bend. Those are the hardest collabs. And understanding roles and responsibilities, like who's the singer, who's the different musicians, who's the mixer. Again, another important one to establish up front, not at the end. And shared visions and values goes back to picking band members. Like, I would never join a band or make a band with band members that don't share at least some vision and value.
Yeah, and even just this entire list here is almost more like a checklist of people I would collab with. They have all of these traits already, so it's not even like signing a contract, but it's more like these are things that I would expect from anybody that I would be collabing with. Just in general.
It's much easier if you're collabing with an artist that you're already familiar with. If you already know them as a person or you already know their music as an artist, then you know what you're getting into ahead of time. It's the blind collabing that sometimes, with BandLab, I've seen artists who come in like all pumped up, like, whoa, I can find collabers out there. They try a couple of times, not necessarily with any direction or with the right collabers, and then they get frustrated and sometimes get jaded by the whole collab process because they never experience it properly.
Yeah, and that's where when I started out on BandLab, it was so much just doing forks, and that's where it turns out to be a collab where it's you and somebody else working together, but it's more they put something out and then you just added something to it. So then it becomes an after the fact thing where their thing was out there looking for bass, for example, and I would just add a bass line to it and go from there.
Oh, and there's our two collaborators now.
There we go.
T-Bone's
What's
putting some
going on?
graffiti up.
Hey, hey,
Oh, you just finished filming?
nice.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me flip that over. Yeah, so I just did my piece for Be a Gladiator with Ankit. It's a
Hmm.
Bollywood trap piece, you know.
Nice.
And he insisted I was a part of the video, and I was like, you know what? I would love to, bro. You come on over. And so I just threw up some acrylic paint and some chalk and stuff, and we did a couple of close-ups and then far away, and then look, I'll show you. I even put them chains on. I put the actual chains on. These
Mhm.
ain't no props, baby. These ain't no props, baby. That's a real deal Holyfield, baby. You know, when you're gonna be an artist and you want to truly get into that feeling and in that mode, like you were talking about, Tony, sometimes when you're dealing with people you're collaborating with, you want them to feed off of your energy just like you're gonna feed off of theirs, man.
Yep.
And with
That's one of the benefits. You get a different
absolutely.
kind of energy than you're going to pull out of yourself. You're getting that energy from outside.
Yes, and when on a side note, when I went to go do those ad libs, like just listening to Angie and her harmonizing on our collab, oh man, it made me feel my ad libs even more,
Well,
you
and
know?
I'm glad you waited till she did some tracks before you did your ad libs, because the ad libs tend to be something you bounce off of things. And
Yes, sir.
with the tracks she added, I'm sure it opened up your mind to like, whoa, I'm gonna bounce here, I'm gonna bounce here, I'm gonna bounce here.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely I mean, even though I hit my same style of ad libs, so that way people still know it's T-Bone, I definitely feel like I put a little more feeling into it this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I hear Angie in the back talking about slow mode. I'm like, ooh, ooh, oh, like I was vibing, man. It was awesome.
Oh, I'm
Nice.
hearing it in my sleep at this point. I'm sleeping
Yeah.
in slow mode.
Corty.
What's up, y'all? Hey, Glenn, by the way, how you doing, sir?
Good man. How you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm
I
blessed.
like the look there.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
you're
you.
dancing with wolves.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I got a chance to get the sneak peek on this video that is going to be releasing in mid-July.
Mhm.
And they shot it in the Himalayas and they shot it in Spain.
Mhm.
And he wanted me to go with him to Spain, but I had things going on at the house. I said, "Look, man, if you want to get a shot with me whenever you come back, that could be arranged." I said, "But outside of that, I'm actually cool, man. I'm gonna have to pass." And
Mhm.
sure enough, as soon as he came back to Houston, Tim, man, we got to get the shot, bro. We got to get the shot. I was
Nice.
like, all right, bet. So
Mhm.
I saw the video, and the premise behind the video, I ain't gonna give too much of it away, but it's basically a man who's trapped in corporate America, but he wants to be an artist. That's what he wants to be. That's what he yearns for. And so my part of the song, I'm already that gladiator that's telling him to come out that shade, be that gladiator, be that person that you want to be. And then it's going to shoot to his scenes, which I'm not going to give away because that would
Mhm.
just be wrong. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be an awesome piece.
Kind of like the
It's going to be
devil on the
awesome.
I,
shoulder, like the devil
I,
on the shoulder almost.
a good devil if he's
Yeah.
encouraging you to be the artist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm trying to be the angel, Glenn. Don't let the dark shade fool you, bro.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Don't believe
but
your eyes all
no,
the time. Yep.
yeah. So it was awesome. So again, thank y'all for being patient with me.
Mhm.
Well,
What did I miss so far? What did we cover?
just the first video. We've got two more that are going to talk about collabs. They're little shorties, and then we're going to
Okay.
be finishing off with part two of your collab with Ange. We showed the introduction. You sent her an invite. You guys kind of threw ideas at each other. Did what
Yeah.
we're talking about here, like what are you looking for? What are you trying to accomplish? Which is a great way to start a collab. And
Right.
the second part we're going to be looking at the end is after you guys had bounced some tracks, sent me an invite, and we talk a little bit more about what we're going to do with this collab.
Mhm.
Okay. Awesome.
So
Yeah, y'all.
the last video we just watched was on the benefits of why to collab and encourage people to not just make music by themselves, but to consider collabing with people because it's easier than ever. There's more options to it. In fact, the second video we're going to look at talks about like where you can find collabs. This one's going to be coming from Thomas George, and it's 8 places that you can find people to collab with. And there's a few in here that I hadn't really thought of as like collab opportunities, but they absolutely are. He doesn't mention BandLab, but that's what we're here for.
Right. This is 8
Right.
others.
May I make a quick shout out before y'all hit play?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically, you know, y'all, I was that guy. I was the one that did not want to collab with anybody. I thought I could do it
Same
by
here.
myself until I jumped on Angified and I met Tony's and I met Angie, you know, I met Glenn, and Angie kept pushing like, hey, reach out to some of these producers that are right here on BandLab. They're amazing people. And I'm telling you, best decision I ever made. Some of them are right here in the chat with y'all right now. Reach out to them. Make sure to spread that love. You never know. You may end up with a best friend for life after that. You know, you never know. It could go way beyond music. So yeah, don't be afraid to collab.
She's a persuasive little bee, huh?
You ain't lying with a whole lot of honey. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, that's all I gotta say. I'll go ahead and mute now so y'all can show this video.
So this one's from Thomas George at Thomas George over on YouTube, and it's 8 places where you can find people to collaborate with on musical projects.
All right.
Here we go.
Hi there, it's Thomas George, and I wanted to make this video to talk about how to find people to collaborate with on musical projects. So there's many reasons why you might want to collaborate with people on musical projects. Firstly, they can bring a new perspective to your music. If you're just doing it by yourself, you may just be doing the same thing over and over again, but if you have someone else there, they can bring a new idea to the table. Also, it can be fun to collaborate with other people. It can be a bit lonely sometimes if you're just in your room working on a song over and over again. If you have someone else there, it can be more fun and enjoyable when you're writing music. So the first place I recommend finding people to collaborate with on musical projects is local events and meetups. So there might be Facebook events or there might be local events like meetup.com where you can find people to collaborate with on musical projects. I remember the city I lived in had an Ableton meetup. Your city may have other meetups that are related to music production or songwriting. So I recommend having a look online to see if there are any meetup groups in your city so you can find people to collaborate with. Next is online groups. You can also collaborate with people online. It doesn't always have to be in person. So there might be Facebook groups related to songwriting or music production. And also there are other specific websites related to songwriting and music production where there's forums and groups, and you can find like-minded people on there. So you could always talk to people on there, see if they're into making similar music to you, and ask them if they want to collaborate online. There's also music platforms online where you can find people to collaborate with. So there's a website called Blend where you can find people to collaborate with on musical projects. There's also Compos, spelled K-O-M-P-O-Z, where you can also find people to collaborate with on musical projects. You can also hire songwriters and producers to work with you on projects as well. There's sites such as Songbetter and Fiverr where you can hire people to work on your projects with you. Next, there's music schools and universities. So if you want to study at music college or a university, you can find other people there to collaborate with. These will be full of people who want to write and create music, and these are great places to actually collaborate with other like-minded people. Next is asking friends and family. So you could ask your friends and family if they know anyone that produces music or anyone that wants to collaborate on a project. So a long time ago, I was in a new band and we needed a bass player. And this was before social media, or social media as we know today. So what I did is I called up the local bass teacher and I asked him if he had any students who were interested in playing in the band. And I also asked him who his best student is and if he could ask them first. And to my surprise, he gave me the phone number of a guy called James. Shout out James if you're watching this. And I called up James and I asked him if he wanted to join our band, if he wanted to meet up, have a jam, and that kind of thing. And we created a band together. So you really do sometimes have to think outside the box. It was a little scary calling up that bass teacher. I didn't think he'd give me anyone's phone number, but he did, and yeah, we created a cool band together at the time. So yeah, asking your friends and family or people you may know if they know anyone that's interested in collaboration can be a great way to find people to collaborate with on musical projects. Next is workshops and conferences. So there may be workshops or conferences about songwriting or music production, that kind of thing. You go there and network and talk to other people there and find out if any of them are interested in collaborating on any musical projects together. Next is live gigs. So for this, I don't mean talking to the members of the audience. I mean performing at the gig and then talking to the other musicians who are performing that night. And if there's any musicians there that you really got on with or make awesome music. You can talk to them about collaborating on a project together. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I do recommend collaborating on projects if you want to create something different or for a bit of fun as well. So I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, give it a like. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.
So there are some out-of-the-box approaches to collabing there. He mentioned a couple of online sites that I wasn't familiar with. I'm going to have to check them out.
Yeah, the one that when you mentioned meetup, it reminded me of we saw a number of meetups at some of the gigs that we would do. Like I'd be doing sound or lights with one of the local bands, and there would be a meetup that was just coming out because they knew there was a live band at the venues. Like so they were either venue based or it was based on I know the band is playing, so I'm going to go set up a meetup to go see this band at that place. So a lot of times they would do that, and there'd be a lot of times musicians from other bands that would be there. So, we'd be doing sound, and like some of the members of 3 other different bands were all just there because they knew, the venue and they knew who was playing, and so they would all come out. So it is a way to meet other musicians from other bands. You're
in a great situation doing gigs the way you do, and sometimes doing the lights. You're running into musicians all around you. That's as good as having the school that he mentioned. Like if you got a music school next to you, there's a ton of musicians in that building.
That's right. Yep.
I just want to point out that Brother T totally like Clark Kented it up right now. He went from like, look at this gladiator to look at he's all clean. Got
well, he did say he's
like,
Superman.
Yeah. I found
That's
a phone
why I said Clark Kented it up.
Yeah, I found a phone booth nearby. What can I say?
That's good.
But
gotta relax.
Actually, to go ahead, Glenn. I'm sorry.
I said you gotta relax.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Work is done. Now time for the fun work. So to touch on y'all's point, absolutely when you're out there, even in your local community, and you have no idea at these local pubs or bars, or you could even go into a church, go see some of these boys on the drums, man. They kill it.
T-Bone just added another one to that list. That's another great place to find musicians.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, and then reaching out to your family, like he was saying, you never know who your family knows. Like, my cousin-in-law is the reason why I just did my second song with a guy from India who, I didn't know this man from Adam 2 years ago. And now we go and eat biryani all the time. And, we actually have another song in the works that we're talking about. And that's all behind a relative. So, don't be shy. Don't be scared. If you're an artist and you want to get out there and share your artistry, well, guess what? You got to fucking meet new people. That's part of the gig, man.
Yeah, and family can help. When I moved up to Maine, I didn't know anything about this area. My brothers pointed me to a couple of clubs where they have gigs, and my niece has found me an open mic that they have.
Oh.
No kidding. Nice.
Very cool. Well, that's Tony's place to go meet.
Open jams are fun.
I take it the rest is history now, huh, Tony?
Yeah. Well, if there's any musicians out in these woods, I'm gonna find them.
I know that's right.
You got to set the trap with the right bait.
That's awesome.
I got to put Ange in the bear trap. I'll catch a bear.
Question is, what kind of music? What kind of music would be popular up in the woods? There is it. Would it be the jazz jam, or would it be the rock jam, or would it be the acoustic jam? What would bring the most people out of the woods? Is the question.
The moose call. That'd bring everybody out of the woods.
So instead of Will Ferrell and the cowbell, we'll do the moose call.
There you go.
Right.
You go.
Send that out over the woods, and they'll just come out of the woods. A couple days later, they all start showing up.
Yeah,
well, it must be working because I ran into a moose before the show tonight.
Wow. A little moose and a little mood, and it set the tone, huh?
Yeah, they're both a moose and a deer, a baby moose and a big deer.
They were probably really hot, right? I mean, how hot is it up there by you now?
Well, and they might have been confused, like looking for a date, but like, wait a minute, you're a moose. You're still cute.
That's good.
Uni, that is correct. They did not mention BandLab on the list, and that's why we are sharing it out.
Yeah, we're adding that extra option because BandLab has really revolutionized collabing. I never really collabed virtually before BandLab.
Yeah,
Maybe
I would agree.
copying a project to somebody else's machine locally, but never going through like the internet to move projects around.
Yeah. And she dragged me in here. I mean, she dragged me to BandLab for sure.
I
No,
told you
kicking
she
and
Oh,
was gonna
screaming.
here's
face
more my
it.
fault.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Your
it's
fault.
all
Your
your
fault.
fault, Angie. It's all your
Yeah.
fault.
And I
You,
would do it again.
You will.
yeah, yeah,
And you said I would thank you, and you were right. Thank you.
See, I'd do it
yeah.
again.
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, BandLab is it's just an awesome place. Like once you get away from the idea that it's a musical Facebook and you
Yeah.
actually realize that there are a lot of great artists on here who, I mean, again, they're just wanting to collab. They want to hear your sound. They want to know, like, for example, if you're somebody who did abstract art and then you're somebody who did landscape, well, hey, why don't we do like an abstract landscape piece, and there's no
Exactly.
telling how it'll come out.
Exactly.
You
Blending
know?
of styles. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a couple, and this is another reason why, even if you're nervous about doing collabs, grab some forkable tracks.
Yeah.
See how you would sound on
Exactly.
somebody's forkable. I
Mhm.
I did a couple of Samuel Plays on, man, because he's got amazing
Oh, he's
rock
got
songs.
forkable pieces.
Yes, and with me being a hip hop artist primarily, I was like, I grew up on System of a Down, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Metallica, Slipknot. And so, even though I love hip hop and the hip hop community, it's like I've always wanted to dabble in hard rock, but I was too scared to hit up somebody like Jason and be like, hey, bro, collab with me.
Yep.
So, a forkable track is a great way. So that way, worst case scenario, you sound like shit and you go back to the drawing board. But at least then you can still say, hey, this is what I would sound like if I was to collab with this person.
Well,
So don't be afraid to be
it's a good
forkable.
way to feel out a potential long-term collaborator.
Yeah.
Before you
And
go
that
getting
too.
into collab contracts or something serious, feel out the musician.
And it also,
Yeah,
once
absolutely.
you're working on it as a fork, it's yours to work on when you please. Nobody's sitting there tapping their foot waiting for you to get the perfect take. You could try a take today. You might not like it. Try a take tomorrow. Try a take next Thursday. Keep working on it over time, and you don't have to release it ever. But if you want to, you get that one take finally after 45 tries. Then when you put that out, and everyone's like, whoa. Doesn't matter if it's the first take or not. You
Hey,
eventually get there, and
whoa.
you're getting good practice in working on it and making it sound better.
You know what?
And,
That's a great point, Glenn.
and deadlines are definitely a big thing. In a collab contract, deadlines would be something I want specified right at the beginning
Yep.
and understanding the deadlines. Like, sometimes people put self-imposed deadlines, like, I gotta get this done because I need to be putting out a new song every day. That's a different kind of deadline for me, and I don't
Hmm.
always like that. But
Yeah.
I do understand the importance of, like, we're looking to get this album out by this date, so we need this done here so that we can do this here. Deadlines, when they're properly established, can help to make sure you get through the whole process.
Or one of those contest tracks. There's a date that you have to
Hmm.
be done by. So you know it, but like you said, knowing going in means that, okay, I know I have to get this done in order to get it out in time so that it has enough exposure by the time the contest comes out, all that kind of thing. But the
You
one
know
thing I was
what?
also
You're
going to
right,
mention is
Glenn.
to watch out for getting too hung up on numbers, other outside of contests, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to get too hung up on the numbers. You want to make the music, you want to make it as best you can. You want people to be touched by it. You want feedback from them, you want to interact with them, but you don't want to be hung up on whether you got 10 likes or 1,000 likes.
Absolutely.
It's important to make the music, and if it touched anybody, if it touched even one person liked it, it's a success. That's the main thing.
I want to
Yes,
touch
sir.
somebody.
Uni says, or you can just have the goal of singing on essentially every track Tony puts out.
Yep, that was what I was mentioning also is the library there that you can work with, because if you
There
want
is
to
that.
try your hand at anything, grab some of those tracks and you can get right into it. So
Oh
That's a
yeah.
hell of a goal, Uni. It's taken me 2.5 years just to update the tracks I already have.
now, is this the second
You're
revision
gonna
or the
be
third
busy.
revision?
I'm on the third revisions now with stems, new and improved.
And stems is important because that way, if you play guitar, you can take one of those tracks and mute the guitar track and put yourself in there, or
Yeah,
hear what the
yeah.
guitar's doing and then replace it.
It's helped a
Yeah.
lot because in the old days, I had drummers and guitarists who would ask me, can you put up a new version without the drums, without the guitars? So now I keep them all separated, and that same revision, a drummer can add new drums, a guitarist can add new guitar.
That's why you got to keep them separated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta keep them separated. Whoa, sorry. That's awesome.
So we've got one more video before we look at the second part of T-Bone and Angie's collab, and this one's going to be coming from dun dun dun. See, Angie, I'm
Getting
learning.
the drum beat. Yes.
This one's coming from at Gabe Miller Music. Another great freshy resource I found with some great musical tips throughout this channel. Well worth visiting. But what he's going to talk about here is, kind of etiquette with collabs and proper collabicate, if
I
that's a
like that.
word.
Yeah. That is very important too. Very
But
important.
he's going to talk about, like, the better ways to approach things. And we see this all the time on BandLab. I get like invites with no description, or
Man.
somebody I've never even ran across on BandLab, and they're like,
Preach, brother.
song after song invites. And unless somebody comes and talks to me first and says, like, this is
Yeah.
what we're trying to do,
Start a dialogue. Yeah.
I'm never going to
Yeah.
accept an invite if I either don't know you or don't know what's going on.
Yes, sir. I would agree 100%. Tony's like, that happens way too often. It's like, just send a paragraph, introduce yourself, and say, hey, I'm interested in your style. Don't just dry send invites to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, because you ain't going to get Tom and Harry. You're going to get the one in the middle, if you ask me.
And when you are sending that message, also, tell us something about yourself. Like, what style do you normally do? What
There you
parts do you
go.
normally do? What types of, what kind of production do you normally do? Or do you do any production? Or do you just throw your part in there and hope that it turns out well,
Yeah,
And maybe
Yeah,
why
all
you
those-
want to
all those.
collaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely important.
Like I want to collaborate with Uni all the time because it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Glenn, last night on Whip It Out, Nilla did a introduction video. He's writing a book, and the first chapter, he talks about like the musician he is, the music he makes, why he does it. And I thought when I was watching this, every band labber should do this. And that way, when they might collab with someone and someone wants to know who you are, having that is a great universal way of telling everybody what you're looking for in music.
Yeah, bonus points if you get yourself playing some of your instrument, while you in your video, so we can get a little taste of, oh, this is you playing your guitar in your studio, or this is you playing keyboard at your, your Roland or whatever,
Yeah.
Or even writing your own lyrics, write your lyrics out, spit a couple of bars to, us hip hop fans out there. Let us hear what you're coming with. That would be a great concept. Absolutely.
The better you do that, the better the collabers you're going to find and work with, because they're going to understand where you're coming from.
Or they hear your
boy.
contribution and they hear what would work with it. That, they hear the other parts of the collaboration. Because some people are better on the overall production side, where it's, oh, I hear that part and I hear that going with, this flute and that clarinet and whatever, like, putting different sounds together, and they just hear that whole overall thing, as opposed to being necessarily a single instrumentalist or, a single singer, for example.
Yeah, and
Or-
like Ange said, like knowing what the person's motivation is, why they want to collab.
Yep.
Yeah, like on Wednesdays when Glenn, me, and Bill get together, which we have to get together very soon.
Yeah.
It's been
Bill
a
wanted to
couple weeks.
reschedule. Bill
I
wanted to
know.
reschedule.
And then Kira got sick this morning. So yeah, it's kind of one of
Sorry.
those things. I'm glad that I didn't reschedule right away. But
Let me go back. Let me go back to
and
sleep
that's-
yesterday. So that was good.
And that's all just for fun. It's for experience. It's going ahead and seeing what creatively we can do and how we can inspire each other to be better and evolve in different skills and genres and fun.
Amen.
Oh,
A
and
lot of times you
I
mentioned
I can hear that you all enjoy bouncing off of each other.
Oh, yeah.
Like I hear the compliments between Glenn to Bill and Bill to you and you to Bill and you to Glenn. Like I hear the intermusical relationship.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's
Even
what
that early in the morning.
collaborating's all about.
We both bring our coffee, so we're good.
There you go.
Yeah, we show up to
Nice.
Bill with our coffees, and he is like, "I made coffee," and we're like, "We're good."
And people ask, "Oh, you like coffee?" I'm like, "If there's not a coffee really, really close by, there's a problem." So, and I will be working to fix that problem like immediately if that's the case.
Speaking of coffee, while y'all play that video, I see a cup in my future.
He's
Get
a
it?
prophet.
Time for a top off. Yes.
There you go.
So
Alright.
for our last video from YouTube, it's how to collaborate with other music producers from @GabeMillerMusic.
Let's do it.
This video is sponsored by DistroKid. Once you have finished a collaboration project with another musician, get your music up on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the other regular streaming platforms, and DistroKid will help you with an automatic payment split so you and your collaborator can both get paid. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today I want to talk to you about how to successfully collaborate with other producers. I've made quite a few songs in collaboration with other producers myself, and so these are things that I've learned over time that have helped these collaborations turn out successful and go smoothly along the way. So to start things off, how do you even get collaborations? And one way to go about this that I've had work on me quite a few times is to spend some time on YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever the kids are using these days and find some producers that fit a few criteria. Obviously, you like their music, they're at a similar or slightly above skill level when compared to you, and they're at a similar or slightly above audience to you. Once you've listened to their music a bit and gotten familiar with their sound, then message them directly. Do not leave a public comment or a public tweet or anything like that asking them to collaborate. Message them directly and get right to the point in terms of, I like your music and I would like to make a song with you. This is the kind of music that I make, and here are a couple examples of what I'm capable of. Would you be at all interested in making a song together? It's also worth mentioning that if they're interested, you can provide them with some song ideas or works in progress to be a jumping off point. And this leads me very nicely into my second piece of advice, and this is a bit of collab etiquette that's unspoken, but if you break it, it makes things weird and awkward, and can even be the difference between a collab happening or not. And the piece of etiquette is this: whoever pitches the collab, whoever initiates the collab, should be the one to pitch an idea. When you're asking someone to collaborate with you, you're asking them to contribute their time and their skill, and also put their name on a finished product that presumably you'll eventually make. And you want them to know that it's going to be worth their while, and you want them to know what they're getting into and have some idea of the kind of thing they're going to be working on before they agree. So I highly recommend when starting a collab that you provide the person that you're trying to initiate a collaboration with some ideas, some works in progress, some sketches, some melodies, something like that to get the creative juices flowing. And of course, if you know the person really well and have worked together before, that becomes less and less necessary. I definitely have good friends of mine who will just sit down and start talking about what kind of thing we want to make together, and then we'll go film something or go and make a song together, and that process becomes less and less formal as time goes on. But I highly recommend doing this for any new collaborations. Up next is something on the workflow side that can actually be very freeing for collaborations, and basically the idea is you and the person you're collaborating with do not need to use the same DAW or the same plugins. Typically, when I'm collaborating with someone, even if we do use the same DAW, we will render out stems or the individual tracks of what we're working on, send it to the other person via WeTransfer or Google Drive, and then the other person will bring those stems into their own DAW, work on them for a while, add stuff, modify stuff, and then that person exports the stems, sends them back to the original person, and you send stuff back and forth in kind of this iterative process. This takes a little bit more work than just sending one project file, but often this leads to the best workflow and means that you don't have to worry about whether you or the person you're working with use the same DAW or have all the same plugins. So at this point, you and another person have agreed to do a collaboration, and maybe you've pitched some ideas, you're starting to send stuff back and forth. Before you get too far, a very important thing to do is to set expectations. And this is something I've learned the hard way, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Agree on how this thing is going to go before you get too far. This goes for workflow and timelines. So how quickly do you want to have the song finished, and how quickly does each person need to turn over something that they've made to kick it back to the other person? How perfectionist or not perfectionist do you want to be? Who has what role in the song? So who's going to be in charge of arrangement? Who's going to be in charge of composition? Who's going to be in charge of mixing and mastering? That kind of stuff is really good to work out in the early stages, so no one gets annoyed because they feel like they're doing an unfair amount of work that they didn't agree to, or no one gets annoyed because they're either being rushed in their process or the other person is taking too long. It's also very important to set expectations as to what the final product is going to be like. And to use myself as an example, I have the habit of taking any song that is given to me to work on and turning it into a Gabe Miller track with all the stylistic choices that come with that. So usually I end up taking pretty much anything you hand me into a very punchy, in-your-face banger with some very specific timbral and harmonic kind of vibes that come along with that. And in the past, I've had people get frustrated with that, whether they be clients or co-producers who had a specific vision of their own. And so to have me just completely take over their track and turn it into my song is frustrating. It wrecks their vision, and then they feel like I've just kind of invaded their space. So at this point, I've gotten into the habit of making sure I discuss with the person I'm working with what their vision for the track is, how they want the final thing to sound, and kind of the vibe they're going for. Do you want something a little more chill, like say X example? Or do you want something that's a club banger? Do you want something that's a festival banger? What kind of genre do you want this to end up sounding like? What kind of emotions do you want this to evoke? That kind of thing. Talk about that early on before you start bouncing stuff back and forth, so you don't have competing visions that you end up butting heads over. And finally, my final piece of advice, which is another piece of kind of unspoken collab etiquette. Once the song is finished and you've agreed upon a release date and you put that thing out, promote the hell out of each other. The two main goals of a collab should be to make something cool in a way that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, and two, to promote each other and to expose each other to your audiences. So be a bro about it. Talk the person that you've worked with up to your audience and try to push people to their work, and hopefully they do the same. And so you leave the interaction having helped each other out and feeling good about the whole situation. One additional piece of advice for collaborating with other musicians is to get your music out there using DistroKid. DistroKid not only puts your music up on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the other regular streaming platforms, but handles automatic payment splits, so you and your collaborator can both get paid fairly and easily. This deal is made all the sweeter by the fact that DistroKid doesn't take a cut of anything that you sell. You just pay $19.99 per year and you get unlimited uploads. And you can get a 7% discount on your first year of DistroKid if you check the link in the description, and that'll also help this channel out as well. Thank you so much to DistroKid for sponsoring this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video next week. Peace.
Oh, be a bro.
He makes it fix. Yeah.
Whips. Gotta have the works in progress for sure.
That's right. That's right.
I think another good thing to kind of touch on too would be like when you're collabing, y'all trying to stay on the same topic. You know, you don't want to take your verse and go too left with it. Try to follow the chorus and the vibe of the song. I know he did mention that, but when it comes down to the lyrics, if you know we're talking about "Oh Happy Day" on the chorus, don't be like "fuck my life," and I'm gonna be like, dude, come on now.
Absolutely. I have mentioned that multiple times where like some lines don't fit with the other lines in the song and it feels like there's two people writing it.
Yeah, there's definitely be a
Exactly.
stylistic through line. Yeah, like you said, just like we would have a certain reverb that we might use at some point to have to tie everything together and have everything sound like it's the same, and be able to go from there. Same idea as having the same through line or the same mood at least for the stuff going through.
Yeah, and don't get too crazy with your presets either, because obviously, oh boy's not really talking about the band lab aspect of collabing, but y'all don't go too crazy with the FX effects. If you see it's a basic with maybe a punchy rap, a little bit of reverb, don't throw the ST chorus, 10 different compressors, de-essers, and then do like an ambient rock vibe, and it's just like, what is going on here?
Yep.
Multiple vocal tracks with multiple vocal chains and different effects, they tend to clash on each other.
What
Like,
happens if you have an
and like,
what happens if you have an artist like me that uses different vocal effects but no effects?
when I take your tracks and I'm mixing them, I take both your affected track and a clean version of it because
Well, no. Like if I'm not using effects, but I'm using effects like with my voice where I change
oh,
my
Well,
voice
yeah,
sound.
perfect.
natural
Like,
effects are what make good singers and great singers.
Yeah, and see, Angie, you can't let Tony's give too much of that away, because him and Glenn will be covering the mixes in the upcoming
uh-huh.
Thursdays. So
I'm just
tune
trying to
in to
prepare
find out.
them, T. I'm trying to prepare them.
Oh, keep
Getting
them
ahead
on
of
their
it.
toes. I got you. I got you.
See, it's what's to come.
That, one of my favorite points he made there was let the person who's going to send the invite throw the pitch to present the idea because like TBone did, he sent Ange an invite, he proposed an idea, had a working track for her to start with, and that made for a good starting workflow.
Yeah. And even as much as
Absolutely.
it is a collaboration between everybody, the person who starts it, like you're saying, to me, that's the driver. Like they're in the driver's seat. And, everybody can be in the car. Everybody's going to get equal, they're all in the car. They should get equal credit for doing
Yeah,
the
we're like
project.
Alanis Morissette, switching seats.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Chinese
But
fire drills.
Yeah, but somebody's got to drive. So, like, usually the person who, like you said, they started the project, they should be the one determining where we're going and making the decision on, okay, even if you have an idea that's not the same way it was going, you could suggest it and let them be the one to either shoot it down or accept it, rather than just running with it and making it your project and then having them listen to it and say, well, that's not what I wanted,
Eh,
rather than going
That's a
down that
good
road.
point.
and to the point on the
Absolutely.
equal credit, the first
You tell
video
me, T, right?
the
I
first
do.
video mentioned like when it comes to like royalty splits and things like that, they're handled in equal. The reason for that is if you've got a band where they argue about like, oh well, I wrote 33% of the song or I wrote the whole song and you added just a few lines, once you start to differentiate that, you will have band members that fight over like the little bit of credit they can get. So it's
Yeah.
much easier to just give each person who was involved songwriting credit. And when it comes to residuals, if there's five people in a band and they make $500 at a bar, well, everybody's making $100.
Which is another good reason for a collab contract, because then
Yeah.
before you do a collaboration, then everybody knows exactly what type of credit and royalties to expect. If the
Yeah.
song makes it big and if they've all done their part and really tried to share it out and spread that word and share that love.
Yeah, be a bro,
Exactly.
share.
Or be a
Which
bro sis.
which when you see people that go ahead and do a whole bunch of collabs and post like songs every single day, like nobody's really getting credit for that. It's literally just kind of being wiped over.
Yeah, this is
It kind
very
of
true.
takes away from the art.
Yeah. And another thing too, I have noticed that I don't think this was actually brought up in the other two videos, but this is very, very important, especially for the hip hop community. Let me turn my damn video on for this.
Oh,
Okay.
he's
Yeah,
serious
I
now.
was eating my beans and rice, but it's about to get real. Do not collab with somebody
Right.
when you have jacked a beat from YouTube.
Yeah.
don't do it, man, because you're gonna rob that person who's collabing with you of any type of residuals or anything. And what if that was maybe their best verse? What if that was their best lyrics they ever wrote? They gave it to you and now they can't even use it. So be mindful of that.
You
Be
can use
original, be creative. Come
you
on
can
now.
use you can use that as a demonstration. You can say, hey, I found this beat and I grabbed it from YouTube and I threw this this on top of it so that you can see what I can do. But then we're going
There
to
you
build
go.
something else entirely. Like we could use that same verse but in a
Yeah.
different way. But
Now
this is
that
just an
would be
example.
definitely, yes, that would be acceptable. And like Tony was mentioning to Da Vinci the other day, throw my man some change and he may be able to take that beat that you like from YouTube and create it, add a whole new drum set, put a nice little bass line behind it. That way it's still original. You don't have to worry about copyright
Well,
infringement.
you give it the same
Mhm.
mood because, like, what he's looking for with some of his beats, I hear a mood.
Yes.
So it's like you want that kind of mood, you want that kind of bounce, and it's like
And it's
Glenn
not that hard
said,
to do.
it's a good
That's
Oh,
right.
reference.
absolutely.
Yo, boy Anthony's in the chat. He says, I sell beats. And he'll be with us tomorrow night as well
Oh
at 10
yeah.
Bada bing,
o'clock.
bada boom. There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm glad we're starting to focus on some of the beat makers. We've looked at the rappers for years now, but the beat makers have always been kind of pushed to the side. And like the first video said, like rappers should find beat makers. Beat makers should be looking for rappers, and musicians should be
Yeah.
looking for engineers, producers. Filling in the gaps that you need with collabing with others is how you get to where you want to
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. Megan the Stallion, a lot of people know her now, but she's a Houston rapper. And even when she was under a horrible contract, her producer was Lil Ju, at the beginning of all of her songs. If the beat live, Lil Ju made it. He has made her beats for years, and now she is highly successful. She's touring worldwide, and guess who's still making every one of her beats? So there is a whole lot of truth to
Yeah.
what you're saying.
And I'm sure she appreciates having a beat maker that can sculpt around what she writes, because sometimes it's the words and the lyrics that are actually setting the vibe, and a beat maker should be able to complement those words and those lyrics. Other
Yeah,
times the rapper hears that beat and okay, I know exactly how I'm gonna bounce.
right. I've always looked at it like this. When it comes to instruments, and you're somebody who is either going to be the singer, the performer, anything to do with the vocals, you're the songwriter, whatever. That beat, that instruments that you are listening to, that is the canvas, my friends. That is the canvas. You cannot paint a fucking picture without the canvas. You have to have the canvas first before you can slap all those wonderful colors all over it.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand, baby. Canvas, paintbrush, paint. Let's get it. Collab, baby.
And you want a receptive canvas. You want a canvas that's kind of blank in the sense that, like, you want to paint on it. You don't want to have to be painting what's you don't want to be fixing a
Yeah,
canvas that's
don't
already been
know. Yeah,
painted.
no artist wants to go through and fix other people's shit.
I call that a job. If you
For
want
real.
me to fix your shit, then that's a job.
Yeah,
I will
pay me,
say
please.
I will say that there are some people who wish that they could play an instrument and can't, or wish that they could sing and can't. But one way they do contribute is they have good ears and they would be able to mix. So there are some people, but it would be a very specific, situation where that's a way that they can contribute, where they don't feel like they can play an instrument or sing, but they can do something in the engineering realm.
Oh, and I think it's important to actually get all the different artists involved in a mix, get their ears, get their feedback. You want to know if they're happy with where you leveled things, or they feel they need to hear more of something. You want that feedback from the artists if you're truly going to do their mix justice.
Absolutely. And again, yeah, it's not just one person's answer. If once it's a collab, you have 3-4 people in it, you should get everyone's opinion on what the mix sounds like at the end. And then there's all kinds of tweaks. But rather than doing it all, here's a change and send it to everybody, and then you get 4 different feedbacks and you try to make each of those changes, like you should do it in like a more of a group setting where like you're all working together on more of this, less of that, and all tweaking it together and listening together, and then listening through the different formats together, you know, in the car, in the studio, in the headphones, etc.
And if you're interested in doing a collaboration and want to go ahead and meet up with your collaborators to discuss it, just like TBone and I did, go ahead and hit us up.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah, you guys are setting new collab standards.
Mm-hmm.
And our
Heck
last
yeah,
video,
team.
our last video is part 2 after the invite. Like, where does a collab go? The first tracks that get bounced back and forth, just to see if the ideas from the invite got into the bounce.
Oof.
And you're gonna hear
I love you, T.
you're gonna hear a better version at this point, because now you're hearing some of Angie's ideas on top of T-Bone's ideas, and like these are some great tracks to start playing with. I've got them all set up on my cakewalk, and by next week I'm going to be bouncing this song in my head.
I'm honored, Tony. I'm honored. Let's check it out.
No, it's an honor for all of us.
Amen. Hi, T-Bone. How are you?
Oh, what's up, Angie? How we doing?
Oh, it's going really, really well. I went ahead and I laid some tracks down there on slow mode.
Oh man, I am actually thrilled. You know, the way that it came out, definitely once it is mixed, I know it's gonna have that psychedelic wavy ass vibe that I know only you could bring to this track, which is why I wanted to invite you to it, because I knew the way that you lay your backing vocals and everything, hella smooth, and it's gonna complement the track so well. Thank you so much.
Aw, thanks for the invite.
Yeah,
And we've
no
got
doubt.
Tony. Tony's going to be going ahead and he's going to be mixing that up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Looking forward to that. You know, Tony's a beast with it, so I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing his mixing skills. This will be the first time Tony's actually went through and mixed one of our tracks together, and this is our first collab. So
right.
This is gonna be awesome. You know, this is one for the history book. You know,
You know it. Let go, right?
let go. Let's go, baby. Already.
Well,
So,
should we go ahead and play the track, and then we can bring Tony in and then discuss the next steps?
Yeah, let's do that right now. Like
right.
5 minutes ago, we should already push play. Let's go.
All right. Fine. Have it your way. Let's do this.
Let's go. Angified.
Almost overdosed or focused on them undertones. Watch out for the undertow. Take a puff and hold the smoke. Yeah. Count to 10 and let it go. Up, 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 and away we go. I toggle through scenarios. They ended up in burials. Riding in my chariot, banging my life through a stereo. I'm not a narcissist, but a perfectionist. Wiping blemishes till my lab's up on this kitchenette. Still the darkest side of that silhouette. Hey.
To tell the truth, I am one turn away from me. To tell the truth, I am the proof. Don't mind what they say, no.
Being Clyde, the hood bonnet, I'm been there. You don't want it, I'm blue bill, the blue bonnet. Southside, we drop comets. No gin, no tonic. What's in my cup, these supersonic. Stay ready for these comments. I'm caught in the whip, where's Charlotte? Hope what's on my back ain't targets. I'm gon' finish what you started. Not a bad one, unless I'm on one. Don't come around here thinking dog and make me sick my paws on them. Sativa got my thoughts drawing. Told my boys I'm all in, then my engine began stalling.
And you all keep lying, going slow-mo.
Suppliers can't keep up, even I got some. Yum, yum, what have I become? Better rush out of hatred you betraying as this love. Tree trunk to a tree stump. Think they're both the same. What a week on speed bump and a hiccup. Both slow you down, so what do you want?
To tell the truth, I am wanting away from Mayday. To tell the truth, I am the truth. Don't mind what they say. No.
Y'all trying to make it impossible. I'ma just keep on calling these audibles. All of my efforts have turned into dominoes. That's why I'ma need me a lot of smoke, a lot of prayer and a lot of hope. I'm done checking these horoscopes. They just tell you what you want, and you believe that there, Mr. Nonchalant. Well, I been Clyde the Hub Bonnet, I've been there. You don't want it, I'm Blue Bill the Blue Bonnet. Southside, we drop comets. No gin, no tonic. What's in my cup, these supersonic. Stay ready for these comments. I'm caught in the whip, where's Charlotte? Hope what's on my back ain't targets. I'm gonna finish what you started. Not a bad one, unless I'm on one. Don't come around here thinking dog and make me sick my paws on them. Sativa got my thoughts drawing. Told my boys I'm all in, then my engine began stalling.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And we got Tony in here now.
Well, that's when I got my invite from him.
That's
Like,
right.
he put that together with you and then sent this to me.
Yeah, Tony, what do you think about it? You know, the rawness of it, man. Like so far, without doing anything to it, what's your honest input?
Oh, the fact that you got Ange to sing like multiple layers of background style there in character. When I finished hearing it, like I heard different versions of her singing in a gospel style choir,
Yeah.
Mary, 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 and then rumble. Like it's the kind of backing vocals that I love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and see, the crazy thing is that I was actually telling Angie earlier in private. She took it as she had missed the mark, and I was like, no, it's not necessarily that you missed the mark. I feel like it originally wasn't laid the way that I had pictured in my mind. But what I loved about it is that now this is my first time listening to it with headphones, and it's just amazing the difference that even headphones have. So all you creators out there,
Oh, and
if
you
you
ain't
mix
heard nothing
something,
yet. Once I get all
yeah.
those layers down to play with, they're all awesome layers.
Oh, absolutely. And I encourage any artist out there, don't just go based off of a phone mix or even the car mix. The headphones is the way to go because then you're going to get that nice clean crisp and you're going to know exactly what you need to do with the mix. Man, Tony, I'm so excited for this.
It gets much easier if you take that approach. Headphones always my first mix, first gauge.
Yeah.
If you're going to go out to the car, you're testing a different environment. Like if I
Mhm.
was going to test it in the club, those speakers and that sound system, I wish I
Absolutely.
could test in all the environments at once.
Yep. And another thing that I actually learned the hard way is that when you're listening to your music in your car, you may, when you first get your car, you adjust the audio. It's the first thing everybody does, right? You're going to increase the treble. If you're like us in the South, we
It,
increase the bass. If
if
it
I'm
has seven,
listening
we
to
go to
one of my
seven.
songs, if I'm listening to one of my songs in the car, I'm definitely going to tweak it up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another thing to take into consideration. If you're like, oh, I want to make sure this sounds good in the car before I publish it. Well, do you have all of your equalizers balanced? Because if you don't, you're not going to get that honest mix. God bless you, honey.
And you know, when you're doing a collab with someone at the beginning, establishing like how mix is going to get done, who's going to do it. When you sent me that invite, like what I love is you guys got tracks and doing the mix on it in a collab. If you establish this is going to be where we level things off and make the finished master, you now know who's the chef there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this piece, you get to be said chef.
I get to
We
cook
get,
it.
yeah. You know,
Thanks.
we gave you all the ingredients, like my wife says. We did the mise en place. So we mise en placed everything. You just got to throw it in the pot and turn it into a wonderful stew, baby. I can't wait.
It's like Hell's Kitchen, except it's Angel's Kitchen.
Oh yeah, and here we ain't throwing pots and pans, baby. If
That's
anything, we
right.
taking them wooden spoons out and banging on them. Let's go.
And that is part of the mixing process.
Yeah.
Like getting
Yeah.
the bang and the boom to go with the melody.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's another thing too. As you know, I'm still very new when it comes to beat making. So if there's anything on the instrumental itself that you would like to tweak up to maybe give it that more psychedelic feel, I have no problem with you altering it. The only thing I ask is, again, we Southside, baby. Keep that bass hitting. That's all I'm asking.
And usually in that situation, I'd be like, is what was MIDI, what wasn't? Like, you give me MIDI tracks along with audio tracks, I'll use them all. Like those
Perfect.
MIDI drums are triggers. Like I can
Okay.
add a kit to a MIDI trigger.
Okay, so here's a little trick that I learned for those of you artists that want to fork a beat or something that somebody has used and they have all the MIDIs available, okay?
Dude, that's the best beat maker. If you
But
can get
hear
a
me out.
beat maker that gives you MIDI, like they're giving you.
They're giving you everything, and that's a good thing. But the downside of that is that if you don't know this little tip, then now you have removed so many tracks, right? Because BandLab offers you 16 tracks to record with, unless you get the premium access, right? So for those of y'all that are forking, let's say, one of Dulay's older beats, or maybe you catch a Yoda beat that has the MIDI within it, right? Which it's Yoda G, so that's a rarity. But
Oh
let's
my
just say,
God, if a Yoda
yeah,
MIDI,
yeah, if you had the Yoda MIDI, it's going
Dark
down. You know it.
Side.
Yeah, yeah, bro. We about to Darth Vader that shit. Let's go.
Dude,
But
his MIDI's got to be incredible.
yeah, they are. I'm sure they are. He always makes masterpieces. But if you go and you actually create the revision and then download it, go into your studio and then upload the downloaded file once you have the beat where you want it. You can now delete all of those MIDIs and just have the single track to give you a full
And you
15
know what you're doing there. You
instead of
can
just 8.
actually, yeah, you could when I start with a MIDI file, sometimes
Sorry, honey.
it's got 12 to 15 tracks. So a MIDI file eats up your 16
It
tracks.
does,
You
absolutely.
turn it
And
into one MIDI file as like a reference track, keep it
yeah,
muted. That one track can contain all the different MIDI parts.
exactly,
That's a
Tony's. And
great idea.
yes, and you know, and it ain't knocking anybody, you know, but I have collabed with a few people in my day where I was just like, okay, 5 of these tracks are just the beat. And then you lay 4 tracks to do your vocals and the backing and the ad libs. And by the time you're like, hey, Tim, you think you could throw a verse on here? Like the whole track has already been just sucked away by the beat itself. What
The
you got,
only
Well,
Ange? Look, she just keeps raising her hand so
I
politely. Thank you.
do, because let me tell you something else.
Go
Something
ahead.
that I found that is, if you go ahead and say it's all those tracks with the beats, you can actually just slide them all up into one.
consolidate them. Yeah, which is
You could
So
actually
what you're
slide them.
doing.
Yeah, just pick them up and push them
Yeah,
all up into the
the
one track.
the MIDI merges. The MIDI merges in BandLab.
Well, folks, I'm gonna
And
have
you
to get
don't
out of
need
the
the pro
90s.
version of BandLab for that either.
Oh, really? No shit. Well, see,
You
like
don't. While you're
I've
in the
been using
studio,
this.
while you're in the
Okay,
studio,
so
just move the track up.
now
Watch, go
is
pick
that
up the
gonna
whole track
be
and just move it up.
so for all of us artists out here who are still playing with BandLab, like myself, is that something that is done on a laptop and PC, or can you use the mobile application as well
Both.
to slide
But
them?
you
Really?
still have the same limitations, 16 tracks. I
Right.
cannot do my MIDI in
Yeah, but if
BandLab
I just took
because my
16
average
tracks and put
MIDI
it into
is
one that just
50
opened
to
me up 15 more.
75. Yeah, but I use 50 to 75 MIDI tracks before I
Wow.
even get into audio tracks.
Yes, but for the
16
average
would
user
never
that
work.
is using it, all the kids out there that are on their mobile phones that don't have access to all the computers and tech stuff like that, Tony. A very easy, cheap way to do that is if they're using the mobile app, or they're on the PC using the BandLab and don't have Cakewalk or Fruit Loops or Reaper or any of those.
Right.
They can just slide the track up into the tracks to move it up and put it all in a nice thing. And like I said, if you got 16 tracks, you move them up there. Now you just opened yourself up 15 more. So
Nice.
for
Nice.
those of you that are out there that are working off the mobiles, that
Yeah, if you're like your boy Bone over here, you definitely realize that there's multiple ways now that you know how to do it. You could take the complicated way that I do it and save and download and then upload, or you could do like Angie said and just drag it on up. I guess it depends on your strain at the time.
that's right.
And your situation. If you're adding vocal tracks and you don't need all these multi tracks, you're not mixing, you're adding a part, you want to keep it simple.
Right.
When it goes back to the mixer, like the whoever is engineering at the end, they need the original. Like I need the original MIDI as much as the new
As
audio
much as
because
the
it's
vocals,
all
yeah.
synchronized.
Right, absolutely. So what now that you have access to the track, Tony, I believe it is maybe the second or third revision actually has all the MIDIs on it before I actually consolidated them into one. So again, if you want to go through real quick and just check, it may actually even be on the first revision itself. And you could open it up in the studio and we could take a look at it. Since he's looking that up real quick, the cover art was actually really cool because my 4-year-old,
Here we go.
I went to Dollar Tree and got him some canvases and I play around with acrylic paint and I let him choose the colors he wanted. And he went with like, midnight blue and like deep purples and stuff like that. And he just wet this canvas up. I let it dry and then I came back after it dried and then I did the mountains. I took his paintbrush strokes and turned them into the clouds that you see in the background and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that was made by me and my son. That was awesome.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I can't wait to see his art when he gets older.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, me too. I'm very, very eager. Is that the very first one?
No.
Oh, okay, okay.
This should be the most recent revision.
Okay. So the most recent obviously is just the entire track up top. But if you go to I think the first or the second revision, that's where you'll be able to get all the MIDIs for this beat because I actually used the AI starter, song starter, and try to keep it pretty simple. I think I used maybe, I don't know, maybe like 2 loop packs or something like that.
Which
That's how I've
revision?
been creating my beats. Try the first or the second one. Like the very first one at the bottom. That one may already have all the MIDI. Because I normally create the beat and then
Oh, that explains the MIDI thing you're doing. Jay.
MIDI.
This
Yeah.
one got the MIDI. Oh,
There
it
you
does
go.
have MIDI. Yeah,
There you
thank
go.
you.
You're
Now we're
welcome.
talking.
Oh, nice. And I only use one looper. Nice.
Yeah, yeah, and you
Oh, two
consolidate
loopers.
it
My
later,
bad.
so you are using all 16 tracks to their fullest.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I already knew if I kept it like that, going and layering the vocals was not going to work. Not with 16 tracks. No.
Well, and having the drums as MIDI is the best because I can break up the individual drums because usually you want snare control and kick control, and
Okay.
the drums are on their own MIDI channel. This is
There you go. Well,
okay. I'll sign this collab contract.
all right. There you go. Welcome aboard.
I can
That's
work
right.
with that.
Okay, perfect. So now that you know that, go through if you want to play with it as well, because what I'm going to do in the meantime, between time. So you just heard the song, in its entirety, where Angie first starts saying to tell the truth. She said that my vocals were just muted. So we'll go ahead and unmute that. Maybe give it I don't know, like a real wave effect. I would actually like her vocals to stand out a little bit more and my vocals to kind of just be in the background because let's just
Oh, vocal leveling is a whole phase for me. Like
right.
after I get done dealing with the music and my EQ thoughts, vocal layering and volumes,
Okay.
whole phase just
Well,
focused on
this
that.
will be, this is brand new for me, y'all, and I want y'all to understand. Y'all know how sensitive I am when it comes to my artistry. Y'all know that I'm very hands-on when it comes to my own mixing, my own mastering and whatnot. So I
And
am completely
that's
vulnerable at
awesome.
this point. I'm
That
just
that
like, oh shit, losing control.
Mayday, mayday.
Yeah. I told you I'm one wrong turn away from Mayday, and then I handed the track to Tony, and I'm like, don't let us go down, bro.
I'll keep that ship floating.
I know you will, man. I know you will. But like I said, for one, it is an honor though, because we had mentioned a couple of weeks ago in a private discussion, just you giving me those tips and tricks on not overpowering the reverb, making sure to control the auto tune and whatnot. Those little tips and tricks, and then and you
You
also told me to layer.
definitely got you smoothing out your sound over the last couple of years because you have come
Absolutely.
into your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a side note, they're gonna be offering this to artists who want it, if y'all are willing to, offer a little compensation and whatnot, Tony's and Angie can give y'all tips and tricks on how to, master the art of mixing your vocals. Because don't get me wrong, you can watch YouTube videos and whatnot, and you can go back and watch the same video 100 times and still may not comprehend it, but to
Well,
be able to have
we
someone
get to do it together here. So
exactly right here,
That's
sometimes
you're getting it
learning
right.
hands
is
on.
like, whoa, I learned because I was hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, yeah. You smoke a little something, something, then you get off in that studio and
I
get
learned a
educated.
lot doing that.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Well,
So
you
that
guys got to
now,
see the progression of this coming up on Thursday.
yeah, this is going to be awesome. And if everything goes well, then maybe next Thursday we could go ahead and release it.
Well, yeah,
And
this
get
is the
on with that.
beginning of the collab. Like what we're going to be talking about this Thursday is the beginning of an idea and where they
Nice.
start and how artists collab these days.
Yeah,
So you guys
absolutely.
better tune in. Check that out. Oh, that's right. You're watching us right now. Hope you
Hello.
enjoyed the
What?
video.
Are we
There
here
you
or
go.
are we there? When is it?
Hey,
That's what
Tony.
Rolo was talking
Slow mo.
about earlier.
Slow mo, bro.
Hello.
Slow mo.
Mayday, mayday, mayday.
All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all again for real. For real. I can't wait. Collaborated. Let's fucking go, baby. Sorry.
This is now. This is now in the movie.
Let
Oh,
go,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah, and just fucking with my time.
I'm kidding.
Oh, and what T-Bone was asking for the psychedelics, that's coming next week. Like,
Ooh.
yeah, like I hear all the different parts that I know what you're looking for there. And once I play with some of the vocal tracks and some of the music tracks this weekend, them psychedelics are going to be coming out.
Oh, nice. And then on top of that, y'all, I did send Tony a couple of videos, so y'all get to see me recording live in action. It ain't gonna be much. I'm not gonna give you all the glit and glamour, but I'll give you a little sprinkle of what I do when I enter my zone. So,
So
Tony,
no
you got
face
that.
Yeah.
paint, no face paint this time.
Nah, nah. Look, Faith was, and it's funny because earlier we talked about Clark Kent in the phone booth, but that doesn't compare to the shower. Damn it, I'm about to go take a shower. It was fun, it was real, but even that collaboration, y'all, that was an insane collaboration. Like you were talking about earlier, Tony, with the deadlines, right? Even that collaboration was I think I had 2 weeks to get everything complete from the vocals, the backing vocals, and the ad libs because his director in India was already getting the plane tickets and stuff for where they were going to be shooting, on that part of the world. So it was just, he was like, Tim, are you going to be able to do it, brother? And I'm
Yep.
like,
That's why
yeah,
they had to have deadlines because if you're making a video at the same time that you're getting the tracks ready, you got to get this done before you can go do that. And if you've already booked the plane tickets, then that's a
yeah.
legit deadline.
Yeah, most definitely. And another thing I was actually thinking about bringing up to y'all is possibly making a nice trippy psychedelic music video to go with the psychedelic track. I mean, why not?
Already been a thought
Mm.
in my head.
Oh
Let's do it. Well, let's
man.
manifest that baby. Let's do
Heck
it, man.
yeah.
And then we can continue showing people, hey, the collaboration doesn't have to stop at just the song,
It really
you know?
doesn't. A good collaboration grows into other projects and albums, and that's how a little seed grows.
Yeah,
Might
most
have to
definitely.
take some of the graphics that you and Glenn had made with Glenn mostly on the AI that he's got flipping up in there that are upside down. Because some of those actually are my face.
Yeah.
And
And you're upside down.
I'm upside down.
I'm gonna see if I can make them sing your parts.
Yeah, we could do that.
Well, don't forget about the virtual Ange, the Vange.
Yeah,
She could be
The
useful in
Vange got
this
to come
too.
back.
One thing I was going to mention about the vocals that he was talking about the vocal mixing, taking it as a whole separate layer and a whole separate project. There's also the vocal panning. Like, is something slightly left, slightly right? Like, those little changes can make such a huge difference in how everything comes
That's
together.
gonna be part of the psychedelic effect.
Right,
Like
right.
when you go psychedelic, sound moves, it waves.
Yeah, and see, that's what I was thinking as well. And that's why I love like the ST chorus effect because you can kind of control how the vocals are going back and forth. And like for something like Angie's harmonizing, oh, that would just be so trippy, right? Like I'm
And
spitting my
especially at the
verse and then
beginning.
you hear like
The
slow mo.
at the
Like,
beginning
what?
she's doing that whisper thing that she
Yes.
sometimes does on tracks. Like I've mixed other tracks where she has these little whispers coming in. That
Yeah.
shit's gonna dance around.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm telling you, y'all got to tune the fuck in because this is about to be hot, boy. This is going to be the hottest shit you never smoked on Band Lab, motherfuckers. Let's go. Straight up.
Yep.
Yeah, they get to watch the collab in motion.
Yeah, and this is such a new experience. Like Glenn, I would like to know your thoughts, man. What do you think about, what Angie and I and Tony have been kind of formulating and whatnot? What do you think about this?
I like the process. I like the layering. I like the way everything comes together. The way that you guys have the MIDI broken out there so that the drums can be separated like that. That's huge for Tony. That's going to be very helpful. A lot of times that's all gone already, and the fact that you already had that as a step that you could just say, hey, you could always go back to that step in the project he's already in makes it that much easier than if it had been something in a different project where you did the stems and, you know, spat it out and then re-uploaded it, which is a perfectly legit way to do things, you know, to get it to where you need to get it, where you just want that one drum track all, you know, compressed down. But all of that, all the process that you guys are doing are steps that are things that you learn over time, that you guys have, you know, by doing the stuff, you figure those things out. And just by getting that process down, some people, they don't know any of those steps. So they're in the dark about a lot of that. So them seeing
or
that
they're
go
not
through is helpful.
they're not familiar with them, so they don't do them. Like the revision system with BandLab, the awesome thing is I can go back to that revision that he started with, get the MIDI, and then I can go to the latest revision, get the vocal tracks, and with those different revisions, you should consolidate tracks like you guys had mentioned, and keep it simple for the people who are adding parts, so that way, like, I can find the vocal parts here, I can find any other parts in the revisions. That's a good workflow with BandLab.
And be
Absolutely.
gentle with your friends, because believe me, Glenn was on the lab for like a long time before he would even publish anything.
It's true. But I was once I did, though, I started doing the whole publish something every day almost for, I don't know, a year, almost 2 years. But I looked, and it's been almost 2 years since I've really published anything. So I really got to get back on doing something. So I think most of what I've been doing is with the bands that I work with.
You've been lucky.
Kind
You've
of
been
Vicky
you've
and
been going
Gary.
and playing every night, which is I would take that over publishing a song every day anytime.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like most of the times we're going out to open jams where we're playing, you know, whether it's a 15-minute set or whether it's playing, you know, 3-4 songs and they ask you, oh, do another, and you end up doing 6-7 songs, whatever. Those are fun, but they're good jams. And also, you know, a lot of times I get called up to, you know, as a bass player, there's a lot of people who show up to an open jam as a guitar player or a singer, but they don't have anybody behind them. So they'll be looking around for a drummer or a bass player. And then after we play, they're like, oh, you want to play bass with us? Come on, jump in. So you end up doing 2, 3, 4 sets in one of those nights. And, you know, it works out where it's like, oh, what are we going to do? It's like, they don't care. They're like, oh, let's do something in B. All right, here we go. We just launch into something in B. And it's good to keep you on your toes and, you know, figure stuff out on the fly. And again, collabing with different people and doing it live like that really is something where it's, you know, it's really enjoyable when it does come together the way it should. And it's like a magical thing when it really hits people in the audience. And like, wait, you guys have never played together and you just did that? And it's like, yeah.
You've gotten so good from collabing with people that you can jam on the fly.
It's so much just listening. It's so much of the ear, so much just you understanding kind of, oh, I've heard that kind of progression before. And like I could pick out, you know, a 1-6-4-5 or a 1-6-2-5. Like I can hear those happening and then immediately know what I need to do. You know, okay, the 1 is going to be major, the 6 is going to be minor. Like, you know, I can figure those things out real quick and jump in. And even if I do hit a wrong note here or there, I'll know, you know, I'll hit it that time and go, okay, next time around, I know, okay, that's the other one. You know, it's like I had a 50-50 shot and I was close and, you know, fine, you know, slide into where I needed to. And
the audience won't give the bassist a stinky face if they hit a bad note like they will the guitarist. Like a guitarist hits a bad note, the audience knows it just like a singer. A bassist sometimes can slide around and audience.
It also depends.
Worse for the wear.
And it depends on how long you hang out on it too. Like, you know, if you just go dome on a bad one and you just hang there, that's a problem. But if you go dome, you turn it into something, that's fine. You know, it's like, oh yeah, he meant to do that. Yeah, that's okay.
We call it jazz. It's progressive.
He was playing outside.
Guitars, I feel like y'all are the only ones who actually get the pass when it comes to the fuck ups. Because Tony, you are absolutely right. If you fuck up on the lead, bro, oh, we throwing shit at you, buddy.
That's why they're in the front. That's why they're in the front. Because if shit's gonna get thrown, it's gonna be at them.
Oh, I mean, I have a hard time hiding behind anybody. So I got playing bass and I'm in the back. But you know, somebody starts throwing things, I'll hide behind the guitar player. I don't mind.
Yeah, there you go. Just get behind the drums. You'll be good, Glenn.
I got a 5-string bass and that thing is solid. So I mean, if something comes at me, I'm just gonna use the bass as a blocker.
Which that bass is almost as big as me, so it would make a pretty good blocker.
Yeah, we have a picture of you holding the bass somewhere. I'm pretty sure.
I know. Yeah.
It looks different on me. And then the other day I was down over Bill's and I played the. He's got that bass on the wall that's like the McCartney bass, like the violin bass, the Hofner.
Yep.
And I played that, and like looking at me play that, it's like super tiny compared. So I picked it up and I put it on my shoulder like a violin.
Wow.
It does look
That
much
must
different
have
than the
been
5-string. Yeah,
funny.
much different than the 5-string.
You got to get
Well,
a ukulele. That would be hilarious
I
to
was thinking a
see you play.
U-bass would be interesting. Yeah, for sure. I've also thought about a traveler guitar, like one of those little ones that's like no body, the kind of thing you could throw in a backpack and bring on an airplane. Small, easy to travel with, kind of a thing. That would be
easier
cool
to
too.
collaborate with.
Mhm.
Yeah. The
T
thing
and
about
I are
the
gonna grab our capes and we're gonna go ahead and sneak off here.
Mhm.
While you guys go ahead and finish talking about
Go.
with the
Sounds
IT.
good.
Okay,
Thanks for coming
there
in.
you go.
Love the
Thank
collab.
y'all. Y'all have a blessed night. All right.
Oh,
All right.
awesome job so far. Next week's going to be fun.
Stay tuned for
Can't
the
wait.
rest. Mhm.
Can't wait.
So what do you think, Glenn?
Very solid.
Collaborate it.
Collaborate it. I like the use of the different parts. I like the way things are coming together. I know that there's going to be more mixing happening and all of that. I like the way that, again, the different iterations really do show how the project started and was brought along in thoughtful steps in terms of the way to bring things together and move it on to the next stage. But you always have, again, with the iteration of the way it saves, you can always go back to those to get those out and still have them. So you can make that stem separation that much easier. You don't have to now do a stem separation and hope it works well. You have the stems separate in the beginning, so you can just start there and build forward if you want to.
Yeah, and in this case, the mixer is going to be doing it outside of BandLab. So this is a good example of a typical situation for a lot of collaborators when they do go to someone to mix or produce the tracks. Most of the producers on BandLab are going to pull it into a DAW because they need plugins. And that's the one reason that I can't do it over on BandLab. But BandLab makes a great facilitator for people's parts, and everything stays synchronized to the DAW and synchronized going back up.
Yep. And that's the beauty. And again, that's where getting clean input tracks is also so important. Whether it's, and she was saying effect with her voice, that's totally fine. Like it's the adding of excessive numbers of effects and really drowning out the original signal with effects that becomes problematic. And then it's hard to kind of, get that out of there in order to, change the reverb, for example, or get a different echo on it or whatever.
Well, that's why when I'm grabbing tracks like the vocal tracks or any kind of audio tracks, if they do use BandLab effects, I like what they're using and what they're suggesting for their effects. I will take the wet track because they've already sculpted their tone that way.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will take a clean version of it because sometimes the BandLab effects get mushy in the transfer, and the clean track is a way of re-clarifying, sharpening back up, and that's the one that I'm going to use like a glue on, like reverb or a bus effect that all tracks are sharing a little bit. That clean version goes to the buses. The wet version's there for subliminal
Reference.
effects.
And for reference. And again, you can mix in as much of it as you need. Like if it's mostly good, but you're not quite 100% with it, then you're mixing in most of it, but not all. And then you're cleaning it up, like you said, with the clean track a bit. If there's really problems with it, like it's got a reverb that's totally clashing with other stuff and you don't want to change to that reverb, you could be taking it almost all the way out or all the way out and using just the clean track and building up the effect to try to mimic what they were going for, but in a way that doesn't conflict in your project. So you could go for that much reverb, but using the built-in, the one that you have already established, like you said, for the buses.
Yeah. If I really feel like the effect chain from BandLab is decent but needs some tweaking, then I'm looking at the chain on BandLab and just reverse engineering it over in the DAW.
Exactly. And it's not that hard. There's not that many
No.
settings and you can tell, oh, this is from the reverb and this is from this and this is from that, like as far as the pieces that they used to build that sound.
Yeah. Once I start getting into reverb, to me, reverb's always a glue. I mean, you might use a specialized reverb for a certain track where you want it to sound like it's in a hall for the effect, but typically the reverbs that I'm using for mixing are glue reverbs. They're part of a shared reverb, not a single track.
some of the different scenarios I could see for the different reverbs. You've got the one that's the glue, as you said. There'd be one that I would say for like a vocal mix to keep like a chorus of people together specifically. I would have one maybe differently for the snare, like you were saying, that one element that you might want different might be the crack of that snare that you want to have
And
a lot of
that's why I
control over.
loved when he said, "Oh yeah, I got all the MIDI," because he did it with the song starter, and having the drum MIDI track. I can separate a drum MIDI track has 127 keys in it. I can run a script and say, put the bass on its own MIDI track, put the kick on its own MIDI track. Breaking up the kit makes it so much easier to actually say, okay, well, this is the snare effect I want in the track, and this is the key. With hip hop, it's a necessity to be able to separate the kick and the snare.
You can also humanize it a lot better, where, if it was just a little 1-bar snippet, for example, that's repeated, 180 times or whatever for the whole song, you could always break it out and say, okay, make it an 8-bar or 16-bar pattern where you are humanizing the drums. You're making it, a little louder on some of these kick hits and a little quieter on these ones, and it doesn't repeat until, further. So it sounds like it's an actual person playing more than just a repetitive thing. Not that I'm saying it sounds repetitive. I'm saying as far as when you're working with something that might have come from just a 1-bar phrase, you can build that out to be something that really does change and sound more human.
Yeah. When it comes to like a beat and then having a part that sounds more, getting some hi-hat action in there and then taking it out and going back to just the kick and the snare and then bringing back the hi-hat or a ride cymbal.
So the next part's coming, that kind of thing. Yeah.
When you've got it in MIDI and you've got the kick snare going in MIDI, like nice and timed, the BPM of the project set properly, throwing in little hi-hat action for 2 bars and then no hi-hat and then throwing it back in becomes a piece of cake because the grid's already there. And like saying, I want this kind of fast hi-hat action or this like kind of off time ride, you pretty much just drop it in.
Yep. And whether you want that in that snare reverb that we built before, or whether you just want it in the main reverb that's the glue, or whether it's a little bit of both, it kind of depends on how they work together.
Yeah, and when I do have the multiple drums separated like that, how much one hits that bus reverb, like you got to be careful with the bass drum and how hard you hit like a room reverb. When you're in a room and you don't have the pillow and that bass drum is just tearing up the room, all the other drums can get lost from it. So when you do have them separated like that, and I might send the bass drum at like 25-30% on the reverb bus, where the snare might be at 50 to 60 for punch.
For that, yeah, the crack and the punch. Some of the live things that we do, like Mike's mixing front of house sound, so he's mixing what the crowd is hearing out front, and he's sitting out front in between the speakers so that he can hear the stereo field and hear exactly what's going on and be able to mix everything. Sometimes I'll be off to the side and, not into direct fire of the speakers, but off to the side to not be hit by it, but I can still get up close to do the light show or to be able to hear what the band needs for mixing monitors and all that. But I'll hear like slap back from a wall at the back of the park. Like this is, they're playing in a park and there's a wall, 50 feet away or whatever. And so it's faint, but like where I'm sitting, like I'm out here and like I'm hearing like boom, 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 and like the snap is actually coming from, it's the coming back of the sound from the wall all the way out there. And if I was the drummer, it would be pissing me off. But that's one of the reasons why the drummer has a monitor right next to him, so that he's hearing his sound amplified right at him. So even if that was coming back, it would be drowned out by the live sound of him playing and everybody else around him on stage.
Yeah, drummer doesn't really want to hear that kind of echo feedback because it'll throw their timing off.
Right. It's like getting somebody with a tambourine who doesn't know what they're doing, and like they just start hitting the tambourine randomly because they are having fun, and that can really like mess the drummer up. And if the drummer makes a mistake because he was listening to the tambourine, he'll be mad. So
yeah. Well, you've dealt with the crazy tambourine, man. I've seen the videos.
I mean, I've also dealt with bands where like they, one of their things is they always have a tambourine and they always put it out, and they usually would just always put it out on the subwoofer, but you can't do that because it'll sit on the subwoofer, it'll start rattling, and within like before the first song is even over, it's going to have rattled to the edge and fallen on the floor, and that doesn't help anybody. So you got to tape that thing down or hang it on a mic stand or something. But there are places to put it where it won't just rattle off and fall down. But the idea is that the only people who should pick it up are the ones who know what they're doing with a tambourine, or are willing to learn and not just get up and just dance with it and smack it because it's fun, because that can interfere with the drummer and what he's doing.
Hopefully whoever's doing it is kind of drummer mentality and
Yeah,
understands the tambourine is kind of a piece of a drum.
It
Like
is.
you want to attack it percussively in time or strategically for the tambourine effect.
Yeah. In one of the studios, there's a small tambourine that sits on top of the hi-hat. So when you're hitting the hi-hat, there's a tambourine on top that's just bouncing and goes with the hi-hat. So if you just start doing the hi-hat with your foot, psh, 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 you're getting that tambourine sparkle as well as the hi-hat.
Oh, and Ange wants more cowbell.
Yeah, more cowbell. Sorry, no cowbell on this one.
I think it's one of the sharp keys is where the cowbell might be hiding.
Yeah. I'd have to go to the whole kit. These are the little chiclet keys. There's 6 of them. So. Just a little bit of something. But we could do enough for one of those every now and then. But no, I definitely enjoyed that.
This was a great introduction into starting a collab, and over the next couple of weeks, we're going to keep diving into more of the collab process. We're going to look at the mixing next week and how this progresses into that. And then if there's enough time between the week, we might even look at the mastering and the finalizing. We'll see how the workflow goes. And the goal is to show the collab from start to finish. So the timeline is flexible, and each week we will see the progress that they've gone through.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And step by step, how it comes together and how it builds and how the different layers start cohesing together even more than they already do. You get more cohesiveness from the layers as time goes on, as you mentioned, from the glue that ties it together, whether it's the reverb or whether it's just getting the mix level so that everything is just right and sits right where it should. So
The sound engineer. Right sometimes the sound engineer is the glue to everybody doing their parts.
Yeah, exactly. Because they need to hear enough of the other parts. Like if it's a bouncing off each other thing, you need to hear enough of the other parts while you're doing your part in order to have that real bounce effect happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually like looking at a song from the outside that I'm not necessarily committed as the songwriter. Like I've been in all situations there, but getting to actually deal with sound from the outside with no writing obligation, but with a engineering mentality.
Yep. And that's the thing, is a lot of times with the bands that I work with, like in the studio or in the the basement studios where we're just hanging out, having a rehearsal, and we just throw on the recordings or whatever. I'm usually the guy doing the the recording engineer, the mixing engineer, and all of that. So we just try to it helps to show them what I'm doing as I'm getting levels straightened out, and hey, tap on that mic for me and tap on that mic, make sure I've got everything in the right places and at appropriate levels so that we can get things started. And even there, it's just, even if it was just starting as room recordings where it was just, we had a mic in the room so that we could get a recording of us doing that song to remind us later so that we could play it again. Because if I can hear myself playing, it's like, oh, here's a recording of us playing months ago, and I might have forgotten what we did specifically that day. But if I hear it, I'm immediately back on board. I'm like, oh yeah, I hear myself doing this, this, and this, and I know those are things that I know how to do because that's me doing them. So I can hear, and like it immediately jumps me back into it, and it just is a good refresher. Like again, kickstarting me by just letting me listen to a few seconds of any kind of a bass line just lets me jump right in, and if it's something I've played before, I'm right into it. If it's something I've heard before, I'll probably figure it out on the spot. And if it's neither, I still might figure it out on the spot. So.
Okay, and you can throw Mike Tapper on your musical resume. Yeah. That's a real thing.
It is, especially because Mike will go. My buddy Mike, he'll go around and mic up the drum kit at all the shows that we go to. Like I'll be getting the vocal mics out front ready and the monitors out front lined wired up, and we've already got the mains all squared away and all that. He'll be miking up the drum kit. And once it is, he'll be going back to the pad and getting everything dialed in. And I can just go over and just give a little, taps. Since he set up the drums, he knows where everything is anyway. But sometimes his wiring gets complicated because he, sometimes we'll use a 16-channel snake in the front, or let's see, an 8-channel snake in the front and a 16-channel snake in the back to get everything where it's going. So he's got things plugged into the board in different places, and they might say 1 on the connector, but it's going into 9 instead. So it's like he's got all that mapping going on in his head when he's getting things lined up. So he's the one who knows what's happening on the pad, but then everything's all labeled. So vocal 1, vocal 2, vocal 3, guitar 1, guitar 2, keys 1, keys 2. But we started having me hold the second iPad so that he's doing the main front of house mix out front, and I have access to all the mixes on the second iPad, but I can do the front of house mix if I need to adjust something that he's not hearing, or I can go into all of the individual mixes so that if I hear, if the keyboard player is like, hey, I need to hear more, I can go over to his mix and turn up more of the keys. Or I can say, oh, the lead vocalist for this song, he needs more of his own vocal, so I can go pump, go to his monitor and pump more of that main vocal. So just being able to do that monitor mix helps a lot.
Second iPad guy got a lot of responsibilities in this world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, I'm usually the one who's closer to the band also. And I mean, at 6'6", I'm very easy to spot. So the band can find me all the time, but they never see Mike because Mike's usually got his head down and is working in the iPad. He's not really looking at the band all the time. Whereas
he's in the trenches.
He's in the trenches. He's reacting to his ears. So he's sitting out where he can hear everything or moving to different positions in the crowd and making sure everything's well represented. Where I can stay, relatively close to where the band is or in a spot where the band can clearly see me and just be able to look up. Because all they have to do is, look at me and just kind of make a motion that whether they need up or down, and I can, figure out what they're looking for and go from there. And then they can tell me, thumbs up, sounds better. And we just go right like that. And it just makes it so that they can easily access us without having to get on the mic and say, hey, can I have more of blah, blah, blah in the monitor? Because not everybody wants to make that kind of interruption in the show, but they want that change made. So they can just make eye contact if they're wearing shades, like lift up the shades and look at me. And it's like, you'll see me like, yep, yeah, what do you need? And, I'll see them go, this, and up, oh, down, okay, yeah, fine.
Well, and sound and light guys are a form of collaboration when it comes to bands that are playing out. Like
part of the crew.
You got to collaborate with all of them.
Yeah. And for the most of the time, I have to do all the drinking for the band because they're busy on stage. So I got to carry all the extra weight.
Someone got to take it for the team.
All the hard work. But it pays off. And again, at the very beginning, like some of these guys, like they'll thank the crew at the end, and most of the guys thank the crew at some point in the show. But like even at the last park gig that we did, like they were thanking the fact that we got there at 4:00 to start setting up, even though the band didn't really start until 7. So it's like we're there 3 hours before they are, just to make sure that our stuff is really pretty much all set up before the band even gets there, so that the band can get there, build in around what we've already done. In this case, it was at a big gazebo. So it's just a big gazebo outside. They had power that they brought for us already, so we were all set with that. So that's one of the other big issues that we sometimes have is when they have these pop-up stages. Is they're oh yeah, we have a generator for you, and it's like okay, is it a good generator? Is there going to be gas in it? Are you going to be topping it off? Is it going to break out? Is it going to break down in the middle? And even if it works totally fine the whole time, does the power sag when the generator kicks in and cause the equipment to not like it?
Unless you've tested the gear for how much it's going to take from the generator. I hate going in blind like that.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that Mike's an electrician also. So I mean, he's got all the calculations going. He knows what he needs. But sometimes we get there and we have what we have. So we have to make it work. However, we're going to make it work. But we can split the lights off, for example, to a separate circuit. But one thing a lot of people don't know is you don't want to split separate circuits for the stuff that's on stage. Like you could get electrocuted that way. If somebody's their guitar amp is being run from this circuit and the PA is being run from a different circuit, and they go to grab the microphone while they're touching the strings of the guitar. I mean, you can have problems that way. You shouldn't, but you can, and it opens up those possibilities more if you're using multiple different sources on different circuits. So it's important to keep it all together.
Have to do an electricity night.
Yeah, but not by saying hold my beer and watch this, and not by saying here's what you don't do, because those are, I mean, it's important to know those things, but not through bad examples. So we'll do good examples instead.
We now know a little more about collabing with people.
Oh yeah. Collabing is fun. And that, like we said, I mean, when I first got on BandLab, what I started doing was the forking, which we talked about, which, in those first couple of weeks, I had such positive feedback from the people that I forked. Like anybody who had because it was all stuff that I was looking for that all said bass needed, or it was all stuff that sounded like there was, much room for a bass part, where it's somebody just singing and doing guitar, but I can hear where the bass should, in my mind, like I could hear the bass part that, feels like it fits there. So I would just record it. And again, usually I've always had, as a bass player, the objective of trying to add to the song, but to put a part that goes with the song.
Bass should be a complement. It should be a foundation. Like it's an important layer in a song.
Right, and it wasn't something where I took their song and just made it a spot that I can go and show off how much I could do on a bass. It's like I try to do the part that the song seems to need, you know. So I try to work within that framework. And in those cases, like it seemed like I got such good feedback from everybody that I was doing it with that I was like, totally jumped on board for collabing with other people and made it just that much more fun. And I also got a lot of good people to follow to build the the people that I had in my feed coming up. So I had and once you got hands on your feed, then you're good. You're good. You're set. You have all kinds of people showing up, so you'll be find all kinds of good people to collaborate with because it's fun.
Well, either you find the collaborators or they find you.
Happens both ways.
Two-way process.
There you go. And on Thursdays, we talk some IT. IT with Glenn and Tony. What are we doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we actually got a double header of album debuts. Da Vinci just came out with his new album, Soul Search. Nice. And at 8:30, we're going to be going into that. And then at 10, your boy Ant is going to be coming in and showing some of those beat making skills that he's got.
Nice.
Some rapping.
Double header. Yeah, double header tomorrow.
Gonna get a nice little spotlight on both.
Mm-hmm. This week is one of those busy weeks, so I got gigs tomorrow night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. So Sunday's all day. It's one of those festivals. So potential for more sunburn this week, but I'm gonna try to get smart and wear a hat and
sunscreen.
not burn. Sunscreen doesn't work because I mean it's hot work and it's gonna be 96, 98 degrees. So I'm not expecting sunscreen to manage to hang on through all that. So better off to just have a hat that blocks the rays completely. And try to not stay in the sun as much as I can. Like, as soon as I move stuff, get done with a layer of, getting all the stuff done, get onto the stage, but get into a spot in the shade and do all the, okay, if I got to unwrap cables, do it over here and stay out of the shade or stay in the shade. Because the direct sunshine is not your friend. Yeah. Not for too long. But it'll be all right. And again, we'll have that for tomorrow. And next Thursday was another Talkin Shhh I.T. And we'll be back for more.
We'll be back for part 2 of this collab.
Exactly.
It's a multi-week project.
And it's coming up towards 4th of July. And at some point, I'll probably have to miss another night for whether it's the 4th of July week or whether it's the week before. And I'll have to double check and see when the gigs are. But we will work it out. And we will do collabs.
And we'll talk some more. Shh. IT next Thursday. See you tomorrow night, guys. Toodles.
Bye-bye. Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some BandLab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
These are the kinds of sounds you can scratch. With this AI, like scratching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice. 40. The texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.